likely changed. It had never been on the agenda for this meeting.
If anybody's here for Ralph Bob, they were never on the agenda for tonight.
And are they gonna be on an agenda?
They're gonna be on an agenda, but I can't even tell you when. I don't even have a date yet. So all the people that are organized, I told them that,
I quaffed that as well.
um,
I said,
sorry. The earliest they'll be on the agenda is December 8th. That's the earliest. It might slip to next year.
How far ahead of time do you find out until?
Check the
Town
website of the week before December 8th.
Definitely not.
So early December, check the website, the town's website.
And subscribe to the town news.
Feel free to stay.
Alright,
We should be live.
Actually, I got kudos.
We live?
because
We should be
my friend said,
live.
"Oh,
Okay,
I'm
we're
gonna have
live.
Dinner and have a glass of wine instead of sitting here.
I'm gonna check on my phone, but we should be.
Live.
Did you say that, Dorian?
Had to go get, yeah. We have a quorum, 2, 4, 5, we have a quorum.
Yep, we're good. We're live.
He's away, right?
He's back. Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's in Boston.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lawsuit.
I guess he mentioned it, I don't remember.
Oh, maybe.
Okay, is everybody settled in back
Unless
there?
one of these eggs is a pill, is a alternate member.
Don't give those eggs to the audience.
6:32.
You're getting closer, Chad.
Welcome Pilgrim.
Yeah, we didn't.
It's a really good one.
What?
Welcome Pilgrim.
Yeah, I know. that.
Wanna get in this thing? Been in 3 parts.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Okay, I'm calling to order, meeting of the Town of Rochester Planning Board, November 10th. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First an announcement, we have a secretary, a permanent secretary. Oh, even the public loves it.
Not only a secretary, a great
A
secretary.
great sec.
Say.
I'll second that emotion. So, Ms. Great Secretary, would you, call the roll
Yes, Chair Jones,
here?
Member Nelson.
Here,
Member Judah,
Here,
Member Cutcheon,
Here,
Member Farmel. Here. Member Pinsky will be back,
Right there, yep.
and Member Roberts is absent. And we have Steve Church, Steve Gordon, and myself.
Okay, we have a quorum. Project updates, Jennifer, do you want to give an update on? Thinkers?
Yes, so we received a revised map from Bill Eggers for Pinterest. That's the Pink Links.
right.
They're converting it to they're proposing to convert to an orthodontist office. So we did receive the revised map, but unfortunately, we received it just a few days ago. And we hadn't paid escrow until today, so we weren't able to get it on the agenda for tonight. It hasn't been reviewed by Dave yet. So in terms of next steps, we're gonna take a look at it. I've reviewed it. I shared my feedback. Dave will also take a look at it. We'll combine our feedback, we'll send it to the applicant. And then obviously everyone here will have an opportunity to review, but we'd like to refer it to Ulster County Planning Board. Hopefully the next time we meet, depending on, assuming that we get everything we need. So I think that's where we are with it. And we also do want to set up a site visit. So when I send my note with our comments, I'll also request a site visit with the applicant at that time.
Okay, unfortunately, Mr. Pinkhurst kind of got stuck in all the brouhaha with either no secretary. He had to go to Florida, he had some medical issues, didn't get his money in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he has everything in for the county, right, into us?
I want to wait for Dave to provide us with comments. I think we're probably there.
So I'm gonna do something unusual. If we wait to the December, well, we might have another meeting in November, even though I canceled it. In order to just do Verizon, we'll see. But if we wait till December 8th to send it to the county, it misses the county meeting of December and slips to January. And this is kind of a no-brainer project. It's a small business that, we want some small businesses. Want to increase the tax base. So I'm gonna do something I don't usually do. I'm gonna ask the board if it would be okay to send it to the county as a result of you all agreeing to that, assuming both Dave and Jennifer report back to me the next day or two that everything's ready to go to the county.
Yeah, in terms of comments, I mean, my comments were on lighting, parking, there wasn't anything. The only other comment that I don't think we mentioned is just to reflect where the city is on it. I think.
Is the what?
The septic.
The septic, the septic, so that maybe we would actually need the map revised and resubmitted, but nothing was really.
That could be a subsequent. It doesn't hold up the county looking at it. Is, so is the board okay if
I think it's-
You need a motion.
I'll-
It's
yeah.
better to make a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to send it to the county, assuming that Dave and Jennifer, who is sponsoring it, gives me the assurance that everything is ready for the county. We'll send it to them, so he gets it on the December agenda.
I'm in favor of that.
Motion, I'll make the motion.
Aye.
Second,
Second.
everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, just say aye.
Yeah, I just look at here.
Aye. Okay. So 6 ayes and Dave Roberts is out, so 1 absence. Okay, and
Yes.
Jennifer, Mr. Pinkhurst wasn't so happy, so could you write down, send him a little note? And let him know what we just did? Okay, maybe he'll come in with donuts for us. Okay,
So you made the motion. Who
I made the
seconded it?
motion.
Free
I'm sorry.
contest.
Okay,
It's a bad joke.
Mr. Post.
You wanna do the minute?
Oh, wait, well, you can, go ahead, John. I'm really moving ahead quickly. Are there any other projects to update on it, on Hans?
So we had a cookie business which was supposed to do a roadside stand. They didn't comply with the zoning, so the applicant has to be withdrawn for the time being.
We're gonna get free cookies, now we'll have to wait.
Or the donuts.
Okay. Let's do the minutes before we go on to John Post. So, everybody has read the minutes. They were pretty long. Stacy, thank you so much for capturing it almost verbatim. And most importantly, capturing the comments that we made when we went over the 17 points the last time about the Verizon project. And I think you captured very accurately what our decisions were. So this is an important piece of information for when we get into the seeker process. So I went through them. Everything looks good to me. Anybody have any comments? Anybody? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 27th.
Make a motion.
I
Jennifer?
seconded it.
Paulina, all in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1
I wasn't
absence.
there. I wasn't there, Steve.
Okay. You could read it, and if you liked it, you could have, but you're abstaining. So 5
okay, you can-
yays, 1 1 not abstinence, but 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
I got it.
Put that way.
Don't worry, I got it.
Oh, it's gonna be a night. I'm losing my voice early.
It's only 6:30.
Okay, John,
Mr. Chair,
this is John
No.
Post. He's
We have
here
another-
for.
Sorry.
the-
Rick, what is meeting the spirit circle?
Oh, I was gonna skip that, but okay. No, it's fine. There's a new project coming in called Spirit Circle. It's a fellow by the name of Dan Getman. It's the gentleman who owns property down by the, what is it, Boodle Hole?
People.
Depot, thank you. And he's coming in to do, a dance studio, I guess is what you can call it, a meeting place. So, no, we're meeting with him, his attorney, and 1 or 2 members of the board during the week to get an idea, kind of a pre-meeting. They wanted to be on this meeting. I told them, no, we're too busy. So I didn't want to hold them up till December, so I wanted to get an idea what's going on. And they'll be on the December meeting. Okay, so it's special use for the site plan.
Thank you.
And as long as we have on the agenda dignified dwellings, If you remember, last time Dignified Dwellings was here, we were still not happy with what they submitted. Dave and I collaborated then on a 6-page memo to them as to why we still don't agree with what they want to do. And that was, we sent it on September 24th. A month and a half has lapsed almost, and they came back to me last week and said, okay, we agree to decrease the 4 lots to 3 lots and to take all the lots in the back, in the west side, down by the wetlands. They're not gonna touch the wetlands. They're moving everything up top, and they're gonna have a clustered development up top. They'll probably need 1 or 2 variances because they will be encroaching on a little bit of the buffer zone. But we're able to vary the buffer zone by 50%, so maybe not. And they may have a few other variances, but it's a heck of a lot better than having all of the, was it 2,000 or more on driveway private road? You had 2 houses sitting on top of, in the middle of, on the other side of wetlands. So it was Dave's convincing arguments in the September 24th. And I think it was actually boiled down to, we suggested that we were gonna get another wetlands specialist, an environmental specialist, Eric Kiviat, from Hudsonia, or we would wind up doing a pause deck because of the assumed impact on the environment. So they agreed. So I don't know how the meeting's gonna come out, but that's what they told us so far.
Are we meeting with them?
Dave, when are we meeting with them? Friday or
That's
Thursday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, when we're,
I sent you the email,
okay,
Peak Engineering at
2:00.
2:00.
okay.
but I sent you the information to call in.
Okay, Pauline, okay, so
What's that?
It's Thursday,
is she and,
I think it was Thursday.
Thursday too.
Thursday.
But I thought you
It's
were.
15.
And Dave has
Right
provided
downtown
excellent
Stone,
write-up,
very close to the line.
yeah, okay.
dated today, I think. It's in Unico Lab, right? Didn't you do a write-up on dignified dwellings and post it
He
today?
did a revision of it.
A
Oh,
revision,
there
yeah.
was, Zorian found a citation glitch that I fixed.
Okay,
I jumbled up a couple of the subdivision citation letters
got it.
and numbers versus the zoning, which is fixed. It's just that section on wetlands.
Okay, well, that's the most,
Fair enough.
most important part.
So I think we got.
So it's a
everything-
minor edit, there were minor
I
edits.
think we got everything that we wanted, and just going to see now what they're gonna do in terms of our conservation subdivision. And we're gonna go through it a little bit later on if you have any questions about it. Okay, so I think that,
Just for the record, Rick,
Yeah.
it's possible they could use waivers, not variances.
thank you. Like I said, they could use waivers, not variances.
You can grant waivers, you have to go to the zoning board for variances.
Correct. Okay, thank you, Dave. Keeping me honest. All right, John, how are you?
Great.
John, did you pay us the $150 escrow that we asked for? You have a receipt? Because we didn't get it.
Did you pay it to the building department?
Paid it on one.
You paid it online? That's
Yeah.
why. Okay. I thought you did, but thank you. Okay, so John Post is here. Everybody remember the project from last time or the time before? It's a simple lot line where he's taking a non-conforming lot and just joining it with a larger lot. It's over on Airport Road. There's a map there. Do you have it?
Mhm.
Okay. Non-conforming lot, combining it with a conforming much larger lot to make one bigger lot. And I have the lot line certification document here. Anybody have any questions or?
I have a comment. For the comment,
Go ahead.
there's a typo in town engineer about the identification of the lot. It's identified and we repeated it 60.4-3-18 should be 60.3-3-18-18. Very beginning.
Well, your numbers don't match any of the numbers that I have.
It should be. Okay. Oh,
I have 69.3-2-39. Being joined with 69.3-2 dash 40.
Talking about the Pacello.
Post.
No, we're doing post,
Okay, never mind, sorry.
okay. You got me worried there. Too early in the evenings, or don't give me.
No, I thought you already went to post because I came late.
Okay, no, we're waiting for you.
Sorry.
All right, so this is a lot line for John and Jacqueline Post. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, and I already described what he's doing. He's combining a out of compliance lot with a larger lot that is in compliance. And I'm jumping right down to the bottom of the page. Now, the planning board has reviewed the plat and certifies the lot improvement proposed will meet town of Rochester lot requirements, or will improve the ability of existing parcel to comply with setback, road access, or other standards for the A3 zoning district, and for recording purposes only, further represents an exempt lot improvement in accordance with section 125-18 of the town of Rochester subdivision regulations. No subdivision approval is required or given by the planning board. The planning board further grants the authority to the chairman to sign the plat, certifying the lot improvement for filing purposes without further resolution upon receipt, and the chairman's determination that the plat meets the requirements of the code and is in agreement with the survey plan and maps provided for review. The plat shall be prepared by a licensed land surveyor or professional engineer to describe the conveyances involved by meets and bounds. Also, there needs to be a note on the map. These plans are acknowledged by the town of Rochester and for recording purposes only to represent an exempt lot improvement in accordance with section 125-18 of the town of Rochester subdivision regulations. No subdivision approval is required or given. Lot improvement parcel shall not be considered a separate building lot apart from the tract to which it is being added. The owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such certified plat bearing the chairman's signature. Within 62 days of the certification, the owner shall have the responsibility to return 4 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the plat to the town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of the filing. Anybody have any questions?
No,
Okay,
I'll make a motion to
Peter makes a motion.
accept.
Second, Alina. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, so it's approved 6-0 with 1 absence. John, you have maps there for me, final maps? You have the note on it?
Yep.
Okay. I give the map to Stacy. I'll sign them tomorrow.
At the end of the meeting.
At the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
Why? You willing to wait around until 10 o'clock?
Holiday tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's a holiday.
It's holiday, I can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Veterans Day.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, so give us the maps. I'll have it for you on Wednesday. I'll be here tomorrow. I'm not gonna sign them now, but John, we have other projects to do.
Yeah, and at the end, 6 signature. Oh, wait.
Till 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay,
Come back.
okay. That's fine. Okay. Next one. The next one is also a lot line. Bill, you're involved in this? Anything you want to tell us?
I've gone over it before, it's kind of an irregular. Shape to it and such, but, conveyance of land between adjacent property owners, including along a narrow strip to provide pedestrian access to Rochester Creek. The maps that you should have now, and you could go, last time we said you wanted a yellow line where the new lines were, you get those now?
Is that the map that you just uploaded?
I thought we had sent them to them before, but just in case, I brought some luck.
There's something that just came in to be sketch dated today.
And everything's the same, other than essentially. The
So-
yellow line there.
Bill, nothing's changed from there except for the color of the line?
Yeah, that's the same configuration. A little more detail, but other than that. It's just really,
What's it?
Not for everybody, but.
I'm good, Bill.
It was there, but yellow was there before a meeting collapsed, so I think it's just going to be restricted.
Oh, okay.
So I feel, I know the new system is confusing, but just remind your office that when they load it up to Unicolab, the maps, we don't have the ability to make maps like this, so you have to still get the. map
Oh, yeah.
to us.
Sure.
All right, so tell us what we've got here. Did you give away all your maps?
I did.
Yeah. There you go.
That's all right.
Not meaningful, have it.
I was gonna say, I just approved it, you can open it now.
So,
The most recent map loaded.
yes, if you wanted to look at it on Unified, it is the most recent one,
It is,
but otherwise, it's basically the same as it had previously, new map. I just added the yellow line here as requested, just to show what was the new lines that were being created, to help, clarify that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anybody have any questions?
Helena brought up.
No,
Never mind.
Yeah,
So
since it was already on the map, we don't need a revision date.
there is a revision.
The comments I wanted to make before, at the start of this season. Because we're copying what code enforcement officer wrote. Parcel SBL should be 60.3. There's 3, but it says 60.4. Very beginning, first sentence of the decision.
Of the
So is the
determination.
decision
Right.
wrong or is the building inspector wrong?
Was, because we're copying was building inspection rule. It's in second paragraph, you're writing 60.3.
Bill,
Are the parcel numbers right, Bill, on the, did you get a copy of the decision?
No.
Well, you can look, you got the agenda? Here. Are these parcel numbers right? That's,
Yeah, agenda it says 60.3. And if you look in the map. it's
Oh, 60.4.
60.4.
So is it incorrect in the decision?
Well, what's on meeting collab is different than the decision, so I don't know which one is right.
he says the ones on the agenda, which are the ones in the decision are correct.
Correct, right.
There's a difference.
But we have.
This is Stacy, we caught this, it was, they were wrong in the last agenda they were on, posted too, right?
The one on the agenda says 60.3-3-18, and the one in the decision says 60.4-3-18.
Right.
And it's 60
And the one 60.3 is what's on meeting collab.
and the parcel viewer.
I was gonna say, I didn't check parcel viewer to double check it.
so Stacy, what are you saying? The decision is wrong?
First paragraph.
You checked parcel viewer?
First
Yeah,
paragraph.
I just checked.
So the decision should say 60.3-3-18 instead of 60.4.
And you
Oh,
wrote it,
yes, okay,
and you wrote it because,
because it
code enforcement officer,
Ah,
you wrote it in code.
So Dave, in the third line of the decision,
needs to be 60.3-3.
And in the location and in the reason for request. Both spots need to be.
The confusion arose
Oh,
because
no,
the
below it's right.
no, they have,
code enforcement determination had the wrong parcel number.
Exactly.
all right. All right, you know what? As long as the decision is right,
Right.
that's what I'm
Right.
gonna worry about. All right, does everybody see that, the third line in the decision, it should be 60.3, not .4. Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Ryan.
Catch, sorry.
Just to make sure that
Hmm?
in the future,
Good catch.
decision up to the applicants too.
Mhm.
All right, so Bill explained what this is what this lot line is all about. And I'm like, you did a good job. I'm not gonna try to replicate it. So I'm just going to indicate that you have a lot line improvement in front of you. It meets the standards of the code 125-18. In that it improves the access to various properties involved in the lot line. Here you have to put the lot line note on the map, the final map that you give us for my signature, which is on the second page of the decision.
Yeah, the standard.
The standard one.
Acknowledged by the town of Rochester, and all that.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
plans are right. You have to put that on the map.
That's on the signature block. Yeah. All the way to the right.
Got it. Okay. Anybody have any comments? I'm not gonna read it. I'll entertain a motion to approve the lot line adjustment.
Make the motion.
Peter makes the motion. Hans seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, and 1 absence. Okay, Bill, so you'll get the final maps into me?
Yep.
You're working tomorrow, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Get them into me tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll sign them.
I probably won't be that quick.
Okay.
It'll take a little while, we haven't seen it. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, the next project is Landon and Dawson. This is a single family dwelling, which happens to be in a floodplain. It's a special use in a site plan. We have the public hearing tonight. Alina, would you mind seeing if there's any buddy in for the public hearing?
Nope.
Okay. Is there anybody who didn't sign in but wants to speak on this project? The public hearing?
We open the public hearing.
You
Aye.
can-
Just.
you have to,
So I'm gonna open the public hearing. Need a motion to open the public hearing? No, I just opened the public hearing. Need a motion to close it. I'm opening the public hearing. There's nobody to speak, so I'm gonna entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Hans makes the motion.
Or I'll second it.
Helena seconds it, so all in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Motion is 6-0. I have a decision to read. Does anybody need a description of the project?
Great. Have a comment.
You have a comment or a question?
Comment.
Go ahead.
In a letter from the professional engineer, he does not address that septic tank located in flood zone. So any measure taken to protect the septic tank from leaking when it floods there? What? Sorry, you want me to comment on?
Go ahead.
Well, actually, as per engineering, they prefer to be in wet ground because that's what actually filtrates the driveway. Unless it's a raised bed system that evaporates up into the air. An in-ground system goes out to the soil. It's never flooded and it's positive it did.
Okay.
But still there are requirements for construction of septic tanks in flooded zone, and it's not addressed by professional engineer, and we don't know when it was built, if it was if that fact was taken into consideration in construction of the septic tank.
Well, we've been through this already, so, okay, you've made the comment. I'm not going to address it any further. Anybody else?
The Melee did approve the septic was approved by Melee, right? The engineer?
Yeah.
My home.
Yeah.
My home.
Melee, Paul Melee, right?
He said it was suitable, it was a suitable existing septic system.
But he didn't mention anything about the flooded zone. And
All right,
specifics.
sorry, the comments made.
Yeah.
Does the board want to do anything about it? Okay.
But there's a-
Just to give you an update on, or a reminder, this did go to the ZBA for 2 variances, and both variances were granted. And it also had to go to the CEO for a permit. And the permit was granted, a floodplain development permit was granted, and it's on file. So all of the exceptions to the project that had to be done were done. Does the applicant have any comments to make? Okay, board. Okay. Now I have a decision. We good to read it? All right, this is the decision to approve a special use and site plan for a single family dwelling in a floodplain. In case anybody who hasn't been here before is wondering why are we doing this? Well, it's because the existing house was in a floodplain, the existing house burned down. So the applicant is replacing the existing house that burned down. So the conditions are essentially the same as they were in the existing house. The code allows him to build in a floodplain with variances, with approvals. And it also allows a certain amount of extra space to be added to the previous house, which was taken advantage of by the applicant. So they are within code, and as I said, they had the approval of the ZBA and also the CEO. So I'm not going to read through all the items. On page 2, you have a list of all the documents that were provided. Page 3, you have the notice of public hearing for tonight. The findings. I'll quickly go through some of the findings. The board found that on page 4, the board found that this needed approval by the ZBA, which the applicant did get. It also needed the approval of the CEO. Needed to get a floodplain development permit. That was obtained as well. That's really it with the findings. So let me read the conditions of approval, the general conditions of approval. Actually, I'm not going to read them. They're the usual ones having to do with the paying of escrow. And on page 5, I'm going to go down to the specific conditions of approval. 1, the applicant has stated that the dwelling will not be for short-term rental and will be for long-term rental and or owner occupancy. 2, the approval is subject to any and all statements, conditions, and findings made by the Town of Rochester Zoning Board of Appeals for 2 area variances as cited above in the findings. 3, all these specific conditions of approval for this project shall be recorded on the final map before signing by the chair. So both 1 and 2, items 1 and 2 have to be recorded on the map that you give me for signature. All right, so if you can have Bill put those on the map. The first 2 specific conditions. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants authority to the chairman to certify that these conditions have been met, at which time the chairman is authorized to sign and date the plan without further resolution by the planning board. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants authority to the chairman in consultation with the town planner and or CEO to approve minor site plan changes of a ministerial nature which may arise due to unforeseen circumstances in the project site development. The site plan approval and or special use permit shall remain effective as an authorization to establish the use for a maximum of 1 year from the date of approval. The planning board shall have the authority to grant an extension within the 1 year time frame in writing, provided the applicant has diligently pursued the implementation of the plans. Such extension shall be granted in 6-month increments up to a maximum of 4 increments. Absent such an extension, the site plan approval and or special use permit shall be deemed to have expired after 1 year. The effective approval this site plan approval and associated conditions. Is that Gordon's? Okay. The site plan approval and associated conditions shall be binding upon the applicant and all successive owners of the land, as long as such uses shall occur. Signed decision shall be delivered to the town clerk within 5 days of said decision by the planning board. 3, the owner shall have the responsibility to deliver 4 final site plan maps to the planning board office for signing by the chair within 30 days of this decision. One map will go to the owner, building department, assessor, and the planning board file. Draft resolution was prepared by the chairman and/or town planner, was read and discussed as needed by the planning board in a public meeting at the time and place of adoption. I'll entertain a motion to approve the decision. Jennifer makes the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Peter. All in favor? Anybody opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain. 1 abstention, 1 absence, and 5 yeas. Okay. So you just need to get me a final map.
Yes, can I ask a question, Rick? I was a little confused. The permit is good for 1 year. And building the home will take us probably 1.5 years. So my understanding is when we approach the year mark, you need to come back for an extension.
You're talking about the floodplain permit or the decision?
The decision.
You just come back, it's ministerial, we've had this before, just come back ahead of time and we'll give extensions. You can get 4 extensions. Each
Right.
extension can be 6 months.
Okay, so we need to come and see your new secretary then. And
We have a year, you might be able to get it done within a year.
no, what's on
Okay.
our plate?
So mark your calendar for 6 months out to get on the agenda to get an extension,
Okay,
okay?
and that's a 1 meeting process or 3 or 2?
How did we do it last time for,
It's like a 2-minute meeting.
The granary was 1 meeting.
was it 1 meeting?
Yeah.
My recollections, we approved it.
Yeah,
No, it was.
yeah.
You just need to get the request in writing, Cindy. You just need to get us the request in writing and get on the
I
agenda.
just want to see how it worked because. Feel it coming.
It only starts after, when we get the building permit.
Right,
Okay, all right,
thank you.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Next public hearing. Verizon. So we're gonna open the public hearing for Verizon. Alina, are there any names on the sheet back there? And I think everybody that I see out in the audience that might be speaking. You know what the rules of the road are. We would ask you to stay on topic. The board won't be answering any questions. So if you have a question, frame it in terms of a statement as opposed to a Q&A. We're looking for any information that we do not already have that will enlighten us or give us input to the project, cause us to a board member to change their mind about how they're looking at the project or not. So we're looking for information that we may not have available to us at this point in time. So I have 5 people on the agenda. Is there anybody else on the list to speak? Does anybody else want to speak who didn't sign in? Okay,
Yeah, they might want to at the end of this time.
okay, that's fine. So the first one is Jeremy Backoffen.
Right, I didn't know there were no questions, so I don't know exactly how to frame the question as a statement, because I'll just ask it anyway and you can not answer, I guess. And that is, what do we, the townspeople, what do we get in return for this, right? It's sort of a standard exchange where a fairly wealthy company wants to put a highly profitable device in our backyard. And we have to deal with the negative consequences of that. So what do we get in return?
So I'll reframe it for you as a statement, because I'm not gonna answer the question.
Okay,
I'll reframe it as a statement, that you're concerned that a multi-billion-dollar company is coming to town, putting up a radio tower. Presumably, they're doing it because they want to extend service to what they have portrayed as being people who don't have service. And, so they're providing a service, and in turn, they're getting paid for their service. And you want to know what the town is getting is, I think, a fair way of framing your concern.
yeah, I mean, the people who bear the burden of having to deal with it and, you know, the various negative effects of it. What do they get in return for this? Is it just faster scrolling? It's just faster? Is that it? Or what else do we get?
We note your concern, thank you.
Oh, so that was my
Anything else?
question. Yeah, that was my question. I had another couple comments. That is just, in general, you know, at the last meeting, it seemed like there was a lot of very carefully worded kind of Ferengi legalese to discuss a pretty simple situation, which is just that a very wealthy corporation wants to put something in our backyard and no one wants it. Nobody wants it. It's pretty straightforward. So I just wanted to sort of frame it in simple terms. And you know, I recognize that we could have a discussion about the words health and environment and what they mean. And I recognize that the board's proverbial hands are sort of tied regarding making a decision solely based on that. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. And I mean, I think that, I mean, it's not rocket surgery. Everybody knows that EMF radiation is sketchy at best and it's deadly at worst. So I think that it's important to just sort of talk about the elephant in the room, which is that, you know, Verizon and other wireless companies frequently warn their shareholders of the risks of EMF fallout if they get a big suit, and Verizon's had to be on the defendant side of many class action suits and countless other suits with this stuff. And they frequently warn their shareholders that there could be blowback if there's a continued correlation between EMF and negative health consequences. And even insurance companies will not insure wireless companies for the dangers of EMF and things like that, because it's known that this is obvious. So the point is, it's out there in the public consciousness and we know it, and it will most definitely affect property values. The people who shop at health food stores, they don't want to live next to a cell tower. The people who shop at the Accord Market, they definitely don't want to live next to this big health concern. So it will most definitely affect the property values in this area, especially if there are, you know, continued let's just say the things that the shareholders are warned about, blowback lawsuits. If there's more of that and it gets more into the public consciousness, then there's going to be even more, and it'll affect property values, you know, even more. And I think a lot of people feel like this is, you know, modern day asbestos, you know, and let's not forget asbestos, lead paint, FiOps, thalidomide, BPA, all these things were deemed safe and effective by some group of people sitting around a table until all of a sudden they weren't safe anymore. So I don't think it's too far out of the lexicon to imagine these things going south sometime in the future. And this is also a slippery slope. A tower of a certain height doing 5G today, tomorrow is going to be 7G, 8G, it'll be 12G in a little bit. When that tower comes down, there'll be a bigger one. And even if the laws on the books aren't written to allow something that big, laws on books are very easy to change when you've got deep pockets. So I think this is a very slippery slope. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that this is just a bad idea and we don't want it. And the reasons couldn't really be more obvious. Yeah. That's it.
Since there's only 5 people on the list at this point, I'm gonna allow not 10 minutes, but if somebody wants to speak 5, 7, 8 minutes, that's fine, but 10 minutes is the limit. Larry Friedman,
Yes.
would you take time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to address Verizon's NEAT case for its proposed tower. As you know, in order for Verizon to prove that it needs a fourth cell tower in this town, it must prove that there is a significant gap in coverage that the proposed tower will cure. The expert report we submitted last week by Dr. Kent Chamberlain confirms that Verizon has not proven that there is such a significant gap, and therefore they have not proven that there is any need for this tower. As Dr. Chamberlain explains, the best evidence that there is no significant gap is found in the wireless coverage data that Verizon itself has provided to the FCC and that the FCC publishes on its website in what it refers to as the National Broadband Map. Dr. Chamberlain describes the National Broadband Map at pages 9 to 13 of this report. As he explains, the map depicts what Verizon and the other wireless carriers have told the FCC is the extent of their cell coverage. The map is published on a very granular basis and can be searched to show the extent of coverage for each individual street address and building in the country. Dr. Chamberlain reports that he searched on the map for what Verizon has reported to the FCC is its coverage at the Granite Road Tower site and in the surrounding area, including the 4 focus areas that Verizon has identified. As Dr. Chamberlain confirms, the National Broadband Map shows that according to the data that Verizon itself has provided to the FCC, the entire target area in the town of Rochester that Verizon has referred to in its presentations to this board already has virtually 100% outdoor cell coverage, and there is no significant gaps. I tend to think that Verizon is not misleading the FCC when it provides this information to the FCC. There are substantial legal penalties to which Verizon would be subject if they misled the FCC. So I dare say that they are not telling the straight story to this board. These conclusions that Verizon already has virtually 100% outdoor cell coverage in the town of Rochester, there's no significant gap. These are illustrated in the screenshots from the National Broadband Map website that are included in Dr. Chamberlain's report at pages 10 to 13. And I urge you to look carefully at these screenshots. They appear in blue starting on page 10 of Dr. Chamberlain's report. And there are 3 topics in these screenshots that matter. First, in figures 2 and 3 on page 10, you can see that Verizon has reported to the FCC that it has 100% outdoor cell coverage at the proposed Granite Road Tower site and at all of the houses in the immediately surrounding area. Each blue dot that is shown on the map is a house, and if you hover over a dot with your cursor, it tells you that there is 100.00% coverage at that house. Second, looking at the area to the south of the Granite Road site, shown in figure 4 on page 11 of Dr. Chamberlain's report, you can see once again, Verizon has reported to the FCC that it has 100% outdoor cell coverage, with the sole exception of 4 houses on Stony Kill Road. Now, these 4 houses, as Dr. Chamberlain observes, do not receive 100% cell service because there's a steep rock ledge that rises behind them. And that ledge stands between those houses and the existing Accord and Kerhonkson towers. And that ledge will also block the signal from the proposed Granite Road Tower. As a result, as Dr. Chamberlain confirms, service at those houses will not be improved by the new tower. But in any event, members of the planning board, 4 houses in a town of nearly 7,500 residents and 3,000 households is not a significant gap. Third and finally, you can also see from the remaining screenshots in Dr. Chamberlain's report that Verizon has reported to the FCC that it already has 100% outdoor cell coverage in each and every one of the 4 focus areas that Verizon has told this board have coverage gaps. That's figure 5 on page 12, which is focus area number 1 on Zolota Ocean Road.
The map based on Verizon's own submissions to the FCC shows 100% outdoor coverage at each house. Figure 6, also on page 12, shows focus area number 2, Upper Granite Road and Pollyanna Place. Again, 100% outdoor coverage at each house. Figure 7 on page 13, focus area number 3, Old Minnewaska Trail and Sydney Street. Same show. And finally, figure 8, also on page 13, focus area 4, which is Granite Road and Burn Road, the same. Verizon itself has said to you, these are our 4 focus areas where there are gaps in coverage that we need to fill. That's the opposite of what they've told the FCC every 6 months when they submit information for the national broadband map. And this is not a subjective opinion that Dr. Chamberlain is offering. These are objective facts that we observe and that you can observe by looking at what Verizon has reported to the FCC and is shown in the FCC's national broadband map. And you can do the same, either by looking at the screenshots that Dr. Chamberlain has given to you, or better yet, go to the website yourself. It's broadbandmap.fcc.gov. And I have instructions for you, if you would like to see them, as to how you can search the various addresses on that website. But it's there for everyone to see, and it's diametrically the opposite of what Verizon continually represents to this board about there being a gap in coverage. So the bottom line, members of the board, is the coverage area information that Verizon has provided to the FCC and the FCC has published in its national broadband map demonstrates conclusively that Verizon already has 100% coverage in virtually all of its target area using its existing cell towers, and certainly there is no significant gap in Verizon's coverage. Thank you.
Larry, you said you had some instructions to give to the board on how to access the,
If you'd like, yes. Thank you.
Can you repeat the address?
just give it to
You can
Stacy.
just Google it,
It's broadband map.
everywhere.
It's on the instructions. Okay. It's broadbandmap.fcc.gov. The architecture is a little weird, so I tried to give the best version of how to access it that I could.
I'm good.
Dave's been on it already.
I don't know, there were
April.
significant questions about the accuracy of those maps.
Thank you, Larry.
States are suing. Thank you.
Okay, Ira Stern.
Hello, thank you. I had submitted some comments earlier today, and if we had a chance to read them, I won't repeat them all. So
Is that the one on the waiver?
about the waiver, yes. I just want to point out that the discussion after the public hearing was closed that night was a little confusing because the board was starting to look at the seeker topics, whether it did or didn't create a significant impact in any of the categories. The confusing part is, what is the action until you consider the waiver? And so is it a 165-foot tower? Is it a 95-foot tower? They may or may not have the same or impacts at different heights. So I guess it was confusing to understand what it was we were discussing and assessing. So maybe in subsequent discussions, you can keep that in mind so that we all know whether the waiver will be discussed separately under waiver criteria, and your attorney has laid out the criteria for variances and waivers, because you're being asked to give away rights that aren't currently available to the applicant without the grant of maybe doubling the size of the tower. So what's the size of the tower that you're assessing under seeker? I just wanted to point it out that it's just confusing to have heard the discussion about whether it does or doesn't have a significant impact, what is it until you discuss the waiver, and maybe later tonight you'll discuss the waiver or the order of in which you consider the whole complicated package. Analysis. Thank you.
I won't answer your question. That's right, go ahead, clap. I don't want to interfere with his new. I won't answer the question, but I'll just give you some direction. If you hang out tonight, we did talk about the waiver in the order in which we were doing things probably about 4 or 5 meetings ago. And my intention was to discuss that again in the context of seeker. So I won't go any further. But in about an hour, we'll be discussing it. Okay. Julia Walsh.
Hello again. Hi, my name is Julia Walsh and I own a house in Ackward and land in Kerhonkson. I'm here again today to speak at the public comment after attending in full the last 2 meetings of the planning board in which this special use permit and highway road have been discussed. As I mentioned in my previous comment, I served 4 years on the New Paltz Village Board and as a liaison to the village planning board at that time. So I know the dedication and time it takes to serve as volunteers on this planning board and sincerely thank you for your service to our community. There are a few specific items I'd like to address from the last meeting of the planning board discussion. First, I've taken some time to look at the Town of Rochester Comprehensive Plan. As you know, it is a document that was created to provide the framework and general direction and is meant to guide the decisions of this planning board. I did so with an eye out for what the document says about protecting our community character, which is quite a lot, since that is one of the reasons that many of us live here. We all enjoy the scenic beauty and small town life here. And as the plan states, development should only be allowed that quote complements and strengthens Rochester's small town quality and character. But appreciate that word strengthens, which this project does not. And is one of the main reasons why I believe the cell tower permit should be denied. As planning board member Roberts eloquently spoke about and summarized in his comments, many members of the public have been speaking out about the impacts that the cell tower will have on the breathtaking scenic views that we enjoy every day, and the hundreds of thousands of visitors who come to this area every year. In 2024, it was reported that over 500,000, 500,000 visitors go to Minnewaska alone. That cannot be underestimated. I know sometimes being in these positions, you're very much in the details, but really from that eagle's eye view of how many people come to this region for these scenic views, it is something to reiterate again and again. And quite frankly, shrinking the cell tower from 145 feet, which is about 14 stories, to 120 feet, which is about 12 stories, is insignificant compared to the enormity of the tourism industry here. That was discussed last week. That said, Planning Board Roberts spoke about the cumulative impact of not just seeing the cell tower from a distance, but also from Granite Road itself, where it will be continually looming over residents that the neighborhood as a whole will suffer. We will literally see it all the time. And not just once or twice, but for the rest of our lives, it will be sticking out like a sore, ugly thumb on what is considered literally one of the most beautiful landscapes, if not only in this country, but one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. It will indeed impact our community's character, especially as Robert suggested, in that neighborhood. It is detrimental to have such a massive piece of commercial industrial infrastructure in a residential area overall. The comprehensive plan supports that in the community character section, stating that, quote, to prevent the intrusion of incompatible uses in residential areas, which I'm not 100% sure of the zoning there, but is very much an industrial size project. Secondly, the comprehensive plan speaks about protecting the environment of the town. And I appreciated the board's discussion last week about, or last meeting about the need to protect endangered wildlife and steps to do so in contacting the DEC. It's worth noting how important this is to the residents now with the passage of the Town of Rochester Community Preservation Fund that voters passed last week. This is a priority, and not allowing a multi-billion-dollar corporation to build a massive cell tower smack in the middle of our community. Our community has continually spoken in a sense in the last election. We, the community, are overwhelmingly against this. In fact, there's been only one person here to support, who has incorrectly stated that you need cell service to make a 911 call. And one that Verizon's mouthpiece has acted at the last meeting saying that it's Verizon's goal to save lives, which is honestly seriously laughable. We all know that cell phones connect now to satellites, as the chair spoke about in his adventures in hunting. Verizon is driven by profit and profit only. They are going to say whatever they need to get your votes. And your job is not to give Verizon mitigation strategies to your votes. Your job is to protect us, the health, safety, and the well-being of the residents and the environment of our community to vote on the proposal that is before you. My town and planning, Washington Planning Board in New Paltz, you know, there are many things that got denied. Just, they were denied and they have to go back, and I do not feel sad for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has no real investment in this community being denied. Also, there, to our knowledge, aren't a group of supporters for this project. It's been well publicized. We all get our cell service, and we received a petition. Over 300 people signed against this. There was a whole operation to door knock and go around the community. And there is no significant or any support. Lastly, if you allow them a special use permit and height waiver, then they can continue to build out the towers with no additional permits. The towers, I'm forgetting the word, but the different pieces that will make the tower stronger. And as you know, this will set a dangerous precedent for many special use permits and height waivers from Verizon and other corporations in the future. Once this is passed, it's going to set a precedent that others can be passed. Without my notes, I'll just say, you know, I do think that this is a major mistake by Verizon, and I'm sure their corporate, you know, group is looking back on this as maybe not the smartest decision to put this in such a scenic area where there's continual and will be continual public opposition. You know, another thing I'd just like to state is that I was in upstate New York, and I've been now seeing cell towers where I was not really aware of them before, and noticing where they're placed, you know, along the thruway, different places where they don't really obstruct the view or the scenery. And I was in a town in upstate New York where it's a beautiful bucolic town in the Catskills, and there's a cell tower right in the smack middle of it, looming, very large, and it really brought me to the awareness of more of what the planning board member was speaking of yesterday, of just how it will continually be in our consciousness.
Julie, you're gonna need to start wrapping it up.
I'm wrapping it up here, my last note. I did take a little bit of extra time there, thanks to you. You know, on the village board, I made decisions that, looking back, were good, and some that I made mistakes on that honestly still I regret to this day. And you were in the seat, and it is something that you will have to live with for the rest of your lives as well. And unfortunately for you, if this cell tower goes up, it will be a constant visual reminder of a bad decision. And you know, one that will be a mistake for the entire community. So once again, please vote no. Thanks.
Rob Hawking?
Markets. I assume that I'm still able to submit a written letter to
Oh,
the
yeah,
portal.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to bore everybody.
Even when the public hearing has been closed.
Well, I'm still gonna speak, but I think the first gentleman that spoke really hit the nail on the head. This is a need that doesn't exist. there is even in Verizon's own maps, there's a very limited space that is going to be affected and be a very limited geographical space and where benefit will be seen according to them. Most of the households within that space have, come out against it and spoken publicly about it. I will read the beginning of my letter here. The tower at this location would cause substantial financial and emotional harm to many residents within the immediate vicinity of the proposed tower. The greater view shed will be significantly altered, but many of us will only need to look up to see the tower looming overhead. The quality of life and the property values of our neighbors in very close proximity to this site will be forever changed. This is not an insignificant portion of the town residents to consider. There's very little benefit to this project, and that benefit is not worth this damage. We did not ask for this tower. While I understand the importance of reliable service, this proposal conflicts with the town zoning standards. There is no greater good here. Broadband, internet, landline, satellite and roaming 911 protocols exist. The height of this proposed tower requires a zoning and use waiver. It is incumbent upon the applicant to prove that such a major code exception is warranted. They have not done so. Furthermore, approving this waiver sets a dangerous precedent. Perhaps AT&T or T-Mobile would like their own towers in the valley. The next threat could come from any number of industries besides telecommunications. Approving this waiver sends a message to the entire commercial development sphere. No matter how much opposition exists, these exceptions are approved as a matter of course. The town of Rochester is open for business from the Rondout to the Ridge. And I think that there's the property value question, there's a sliding scale there. Overall property values may be affected. And you can say that, well, it's limited to this small area. Personally, I live at the intersection of Stony Hill and Granite. So I'm right there, but I'm not as worse off as some of the other people, all the people that live in that apartment complex. Their quality of life is going to be affected. We have a whole lot of neighbors who will be detrimentally affected with be it quality of life or their property values. And I don't think it's something that we should inflict upon our neighbors for a benefit that no one's really asking for. And I'm not sure that Verizon has satisfied the requirements with regard to the property value studies. There is a statute or the code 14029I2G requires an economic analysis of potential property value impacts for all adjacent parcels within 500 feet of the proposed site. I haven't seen anything that addresses those properties in particular. Maybe I missed it. There was some talk of a comp study. I haven't seen anything that adequately reflects the socioeconomic, environmental, and geographic areas in an adequate manner, value for value of what we have where this tower is being proposed. And I think, as Julia mentioned, there's the precedent issue. And this is not really a NIMBY issue. All of the people that are supposedly benefiting from this are the ones opposing, outside of one or two people that I've seen. So I thank you for your time, and I ask that you oppose this waiver.
Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Yes, Michelle.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all. I am so excited to know that in this room right now, there are generations of our community here. There are really young people, and then the next ones and the next ones, and older folks like us. And we're all speaking, but I really want the board to recognize the younger generation is speaking here. These are the people who are our town, and they are the future of our town. And they live right around there. Many of them live right around there. So they shouldn't have to see this tower in their lives. They've invested in all of their money and their houses. They live in those apartments because that's where they want to live. And one gentleman said he's worried that that tower will come right down on his apartment because he lives right next door. They do come down. So I like the board to just recognize the younger people that are here and who have spoken and who I have so much respect for. So I hope that you all do too. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
I'm Toby Stover. I live
Have your
on
name?
Toby Stover, and I live on Clove Valley Road. And I've spoken to you before. I didn't prepare anything, but in listening to what Larry said, I'm thinking, well, what's the point of this tower? They're telling us we need it, so what's the point of it? Why do we need this? And so does it mean that there's just gonna be more and more and more cells put on it and more coming into our community? And it's endless. We say yes to this tower. They're gonna have their foot in the door and it will be endless. We don't need it, we don't want it. And we know that you're doing a terrific job here. We really thank you. Because it is pretty much a thankless job, but there's no way that we're gonna tolerate that. And the board has to rule on the side of the people and not on the side of a company that has no business here of any benefit that anyone can see. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak tonight? Okay, so I'm gonna close the public hearing for tonight. And I'm not quite sure when our next meeting is gonna be. We had canceled the meeting in November. The board knows that. But I may be asking the board to reinstitute the November meeting and just dedicate it to Verizon. And just for the board to speak, not to take any more public comment. And then December 8th, which is our next scheduled meeting, we would have the public hearing again. And likely to close it at that point in time and dive into the seeker process at that point in time. But I think we need to get, and we still need to get the Ulster County Planning Board information. But I do think we're gonna need another meeting this month, but let's see how the rest of this meeting goes. We'll be here for a while talking about a lot of these issues.
Sure.
So, yep,
Just to make public aware that even if there's not a public comment period here, letters are always welcome on this written things. We don't have to speak in public. That's acceptable.
and even after we close the public
Yeah,
hearing, whenever
just wanna make
that
that
is,
clear.
the letters will be allowed to continue to come in. You want to make you want to make a comment?
No, I just wanna, I ask one question.
Go ahead.
Assuming that you did let this go through, when would this construction begin?
Oh, I have no idea.
So it's in the future.
I have no idea.
Oh, for it.
You're assuming that we're gonna approve it or not approve it. So construction begins when it begins, if it's approved. So I don't know. No idea. Okay, so tonight, the public hearing is over. We have one other project to speak of very quickly. Gonna take a short break. We have a lot of interesting things to talk about around Verizon if you want to stay. It gets quite exciting, I can assure you, in the wee hours of 10 o'clock, 9:30, whatever. So we'll take a break for 5 or 10 minutes. We have a short project that we need to discuss probably for 15 minutes. So sometime around 8 o'clock, we're going to launch into a detailed discussion, continued discussion of Verizon. And Scott, at that time, we'll let you comment on what you heard here if you wish. All right, so let's take a 10-minute break.
I'll wear it. And I emailed you. Okay. Wherever she went, she said. I said. Come around here also. You don't pay for
That. It's a version of your former. Yeah. Yes. I was here. I pulled it out. I actually. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. There's a great assumption that you've got given so many conclusions. This time. We'll start with you for stuff. I mean, I think that's. Yeah, it's gonna be huge. Just the race of Planes with the rain for the plane with that, for that.
I mean, all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's starting to look like, I don't know. Yeah. Thank you. The first one is oh, there you go. So we have the whole, what are these bubbled in a cider, don't. Oh, you voted it place? Nice. Where was it? Down up at the, up on the firehouse way on the road? I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, I'm driving by there a lot. You can see them start to. Up to Bel Air. Three trains. So you're gonna do, what next?
We're gonna do dignified. Before we get back to their seats, please, we'll get going.
Oh.
If the public could either take the conversation outside, or if they could just find a seat if they want to listen, we want to get started. I can't get started with everybody talking. So if you don't mind getting a seat or carrying the conversation outside.
Very happy. All right, good night, thank you. Dorian, those eggs are for you.
What?
Eggs for you.
Why?
Me.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm giving them to everybody. Farm fresh from our house.
Exactly, I appreciate it.
Do you eat them?
What?
Do you eat eggs? Yeah.
Okay, let's get started.
No, the broad.
I'm like him.
Apparently has.
Dave, let's talk that later. So, dignified dwellings. There is a map or two of dignified dwellings, if you don't remember the project.
Well, we remember.
These are not new maps, right?
No, these are not, the maps that you have were not new maps, so
Refresher.
you probably don't need the map, you remember it, right? It was the one with 4 lots. 2 were up on the hill on the east side of the property. It came in from Marlboro, wound around, up and down, 25% slopes, 20% slopes, and so on and so forth. Eventually wound in the back where there's wetlands that lead to the Bly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it's been before us for almost 2 years. And at the last meeting, we told them, and this was about 2 months ago, we told them that the presentation was better, but it was still no good. And Dave and I put together a document, which you have, it's dated September 24th, with additions. There were some additions done today as a result of Zorian picking up on some code problems,
So then,
code numbering.
is it dated?
It's dated 9/24.
Okay.
Dave, did
The
you
latest
change
one
the
we
date?
have is 11/10/25.
So it was posted.
There was,
But
there was, go ahead, sorry.
there is a comment there, wetland text edited 11/10.
Okay,
Yeah, it's 11/10, but it's,
So on
the
the-
document itself is dated 9/24.
correct, but the
Okay.
last one was 11/10.
Okay, yeah,
There's a code citation clarified.
Right,
As of this morning. That's
Okay.
the only revision.
okay. So the document, we jointly did a pretty good job on the document, if you had a chance to read it, in that we pointed out all the code provisions that allowed us to prevent them from building near the wetlands. We told the applicant, we were willing to increase the buffer by 50% if we had to convince them that we were serious. pointed out to them that the slope of the land was such that from the property lines, water would be coursing down through the wetland area, through another wetland area, and finally probably into the Fly. No proof of that, but if you just look at the contours, it was pretty obvious. The driveway, the entire road system was over 2,000 feet. The driveway itself was about 1,000 feet. The private road was 1,100 feet, give or take. If you remember, this is the one also where there was a lot of, I'll put it mildly, a lot of trees taken down. So anyway, the two, I think the two clutch plays, if you would, where we told them that we were gonna get somebody from Hudsonia to take a look at the entire property, the environment of the entire property. Of course, I don't think the wetlands was the only thing of importance there. And that we would have no problem essentially pause decking this project in order to get at the environmental issues, because we were so convinced that there were real problems with it. So they went away for about a month, 5 weeks. And I got a call, an email rather, last week from the attorney indicating that they were willing to go from 4 houses to 3 houses. Put all the houses up on the top of the hill, I'll call it the top of the hill, east side of the project. They would eliminate excessive amounts of the driveway. There'd be no houses in the wetlands. The only thing they didn't confirm was whether they were still gonna do the conservation subdivision. But I don't see how else you would do it. And hopefully they would agree to do it, maybe with Round Avasopus, I don't know. There's some pretty valuable lands back there. So they wanted to meet to go over it, go over a sketch plan with myself, Dave. Peter's gonna be there. Who else?
I'm gonna be on.
Jennifer, you're gonna be on.
I haven't seen the drawings.
We
haven't seen them either. You know what? I will make sure I tell them to get the drawings. They're just sketch plans.
That's fine.
But I'll remind them to get them out before the meeting so you can look at them. So I said, sure, we'll meet, and Dave Gordon will be on the phone because their attorney is gonna be there too. So if we essentially got what we had asked for and been pushing for it, I'm fine with it. So I just wanted the board to know that. Pretty important that we got, I'll say this concession. It's not even a concession, it's a realization that the project was gonna have a significant impact. So anyway, anybody have any comments before we go to the meeting? Just wanted to give you a heads up.
When is the meeting?
Wednesday,
Oh, Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Thursday.
There's another
Oh,
one
yeah.
on Wednesday. There's a different meeting on Wednesday we have with a new project, but Thursday, thank you.
What happens to the road?
Well, you know, one of the things I'm gonna ask them is, what are you gonna do with the road? Are you gonna restore it? What are you gonna do with
Whoa.
it? I don't know.
I want to ask them if we should consider it, if we can make that a requirement.
Yeah, that could be a condition of approval.
That would be.
I'm glad we have our attorney with us.
That stops any better.
Yeah,
I don't, actually, you know, if you were finding out, you know, their predisposition to it can be helpful, and you may want to take that into consideration, but at the end of the day, you know. It's actually a combination of what we do with site plan approval, also if the CEO wanted to take any action on it.
So, I don't know.
Can I make a comment about that? That's a good question about the road. So a big issue with roads is stormwater. And so I don't know how the existence or non-existence of the road could affect their stormwater plans. Or what we're recommending, but if the road is on the final, whatever is final that comes before us, they'll have to account for stormwater.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll have to have whatever is needed to manage stormwater on that road.
Yeah, I can't tell where they're ending the road for these 3 houses.
Yeah,
Are they ending it at the top of the ridge? Which would mean,
right.
right,
We don't know until we see.
that would be the
plans, but-
best of all possible worlds, but then you still have this road that they went down into the gully with. What are they gonna do to prevent the stormwater from running into the
Yeah,
wetlands?
that's like
So you're absolutely right.
great.
And when you see the contours on the contour map, it's obvious. So,
Rick,
yeah,
I'll just note for the board, no matter what they do, even build one house, You have to put the road at a minimum through the wetland buffer.
Up at the top,
Off of Rose Hill Road.
right?
Yes, at the
You're
top.
in, as soon as you step off the road, you're in the towns that require wetland buffer. So you're gonna have to consider. What do you wanna do about that?
So we talked about this,
It's unavoidable on this property.
Well, and it's the existing road, it exists.
and we're not,
Well, yeah,
Well-
well, partially, it was graded, it wasn't improved, it's
I see, okay.
it's a cut. It's essentially a landscape cut.
Also, part of the discussion before is, you know, the road physically exists, you know, hugely. You know, but that may not be where we come out in terms of what we ultimately want. So that, you know, that. We don't, I mean, I think the bigger issue that Dave's raising is if we're gonna improve it at all, it's gonna have to deal with that concession. Anyhow.
Right.
But from an environmental impact to the wetlands, the area in the back. Where the state wetland is, where the Blythe Brook is, which is a class A stream, et cetera, that is to me a much more sensitive and critical environment, and there is an endangered plant. That has been found in the back there, but the front, and since that is a federal wetland, I mean, I think that it's not as egregious as putting the road through the wetlands in the back.
I'm glad to hear that.
one of the things with our
I'm glad to
code,
hear the revised plan.
one of the things with our code, which Dave and I have been grappling with, and this was this project in particular. It says you can't put, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, paved driveway through a paved surfaces in a buffer zone. This was proposed not to be paved, but to be hard packed gravel, so gravel road. So, and unfortunately, paved driveway, there are a lot of definitions that aren't in our code. So. Are they allowed to put in a road? Yeah, they just can't make it paved. The normal definition of paved means concrete or asphalt, but you can do gravel. Now, our engineer has indicated to us, you know, some gravel roads are as hard thin as real paved roads. But the point is, we grappled with that definition of what you can put in a buffer zone. You obviously can't put in a house unless you get there are approvals you can get. But this thing with the driveway paved versus gravel is a little bit vexing. And we're gonna have to deal with that.
One last request also, if there's a discussion about the conservation easement, that be please involve. And Peter will take care of that, the conservancy from the beginning.
Yeah.
Not like that we come at the end and should delay the whole process. So-
Yeah, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it.
In case a case comes up.
Yeah, they go up, yeah.
Yeah, I doubt they're gonna wanna run an HOA with 3 households. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's why I was.
So to your point, there's a real, because the original conservation easement that they were proposing was just undevelopable land. So it sort of didn't even get at the whole purpose of a conservation easement, but if they're moving things up towards Roseville Road. There's a real opportunity to actually conserve land that's adjacent to a wetland, like there's a great opportunity on
Yeah,
that.
it's a big deal.
And
Yeah.
it's the fly.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that being
there
preserved.
of land, so.
Yeah, depending on how they choose to carve it up into what size lots, you know, before they carved it up in smaller lots and they just had conservation area that was not lined up with it. I don't think.
One of the interesting things is the letter that they sent me suggested cluster houses, which that's 5 acres zoning up there. 5 or 3, I forget, but they're gonna need smaller lots, and you can only get small lots if you do a conservation subdivision. So I think the conservation subdivision is up for play. It's just who's gonna maintain it.
Yeah, if you do the conservation subdivision, they have to have a easement.
Right.
Your new code, fortunately now aligns with calling a conservation easement defined consistent with state statute. Which means I don't think you can do a homeowners and conform with the new statute, the new town code.
Okay.
But that's up for discussion. But if they don't opt for doing the, you know, what's popularly called flustering, Peter's right, they could do a lot configuration in a variety of ways. I think they could get, as a quick sketch, they could get 2 lots on that property without doing anything complicated.
But they're probably shooting for 3.
If they shoot for 3, we've already had an internal debate about how to pull that off. I think they would have to do a conservation subdivision at least. But that doesn't avoid the fact that they're gonna have to go through that wetland buffer as defined by town code regardless, whether they do one house on the property, right?
I think just to remind everybody that Roseville Road goes to the edge of that property, so it's an existing, basically a dead end until they put the cut in there that they did onto the property, so. And there was an old foundation there from a former house from, I don't know what era, but, so.
Yep, that's, yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Okay. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Verizon. Scott, you asked me whether or not we're gonna let you talk. We always let you talk. It's just, we don't want you,
I heard we were going on at 10 o'clock, I thought,
no,
well, it's on YouTube.
we don't want you to
Maybe just
be,
watch it.
we don't want you to be part of the board where we're going back and forth necessarily.
I understand, there are times when I jump in, if I know the answer to something the board's struggling to remember, I just thought it would be helpful. Right.
How about what we do is we'll ask you a question as opposed to jumping in. But what I'd like to do now is give you an opportunity to either respond to some things you heard. I have lots of questions. We're not going to settle it here tonight.
Sure.
About this national broadband map. Lots of questions.
Yeah.
And Dave already started looking into it, and Greg is looking into it, also our engineer. But if you have some general comments, and then what we're going to do, the board is going to discuss a lot of topics having to do with Verizon.
I want to first thank the chair for being proactive when the first letter came in. And I haven't seen, I don't know if the rest of the board is aware of it, but Mr. Chamberlain, in my opinion, was unprofessional, was rude, and quite frankly obnoxious in attacking our engineer. And I think he owes the engineer a written apology. And so until I see a written apology, I will treat him with the same disrespect that he treats our people. I'll be polite about it though, but I think it was really bad form.
We're gonna discuss a number of different memos that have, and so I'd rather you not discuss them in light of the fact that I will take care of it.
Okay.
But I don't want, I mean, you do what you professionally believe is the appropriate thing to do, but I don't want to see anything coming across to this board from anybody any longer that contains ad hominem attacks on anyone. And if the truth be known, they started a long time ago and kind of let them go. They grew in intensity. Okay, I guess this is the way lawyers talk to each other. But then when I saw the last one last Thursday, that was it. And it wasn't for a lawyer, but that doesn't mean it couldn't have been from a lawyer. So I don't want, you save the histrionics for the court if it goes to court, and then the judge can slap you down. I'm just saying, from anybody, and that includes the public making comments to somebody else on the board or a member of the presenters or whatever. I'm just not standing for personal attacks. So
I understand.
let's leave those.
I'm not trying to attack him personally.
Okay, so let's leave those issues to the side.
I would like to though, to start with his letter, and I think that you should do exactly what Mr. Friedman requested you to do and look at some of the screenshots. Because this is why I question if he is qualified to do this. Because as Mr. Friedman said, well, example, look at figure 6 on page 12. We don't have to do that now. That shows that Verizon Wireless has service blanketed. No, it doesn't. It's in the key. It's only AT&T service. Why would they submit something that's only AT&T service and say it's Verizon service? Same thing with the other map, the map of propagation above it. That is a accumulation of AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile service, but the FCC just merges them all together. So there's no way to know whose service is what. So what I'm suggesting is if you look at all those maps, they do not support his conclusion.
Can I ask you a question on the maps?
Yes.
When I looked at it, the phrase that's used on the map is percentage of area served.
Okay.
It's, and I think that's actually what Larry was referring to. And it's typically, in these maps, typically about 100% or something similar to that. But I want to ask whether that is functionally the same thing as what Verizon and other applicants are trying to prove or deal with when you talk about a gap. In other words, percentage area served, I view as on is plus or minus, well, on or off. It's either served or not served. And so they're trying to show a house is served.
Yeah.
But I also understood, or you can tell me, when you look at gaps, for example, the type of thing that you're applying to us and saying you've got, is it 100-0 thing, or is it a deficiency at certain times or under certain conditions? And so is this a little bit, not totally apples and oranges, but just a slightly different dimension, or how accurate is this? In other words, to what extent does the representation here of percentage of area served dovetail, or is it congruent with the type of issue that you're dealing with? And when you talk about a deficiency,
We did not have a pre-conversation about this, because that's exactly what I was going to get into. It was a great question. And the answer to your question is, what you see on the FCC broadband maps don't represent anything that we're trying to do. And let me explain why. And we will have a formal, if we get to that point, a formal response by the RF engineer. But we think it's appropriate to do that after the public hearing is closed. But if you look at the broadband, the FCC broadband maps, those are intended for an entirely different purpose. And I can't tell you what the FCC's purpose is, because I don't think anybody knows per se. Oh, I don't know. But we can tell you that the map, well, first of all, they use propagation maps, obviously, to show you what the coverage is. But they're using a huge area. It's called the 350-meter bin. So just think of that as, 350 by 350 area. And the program is taking the signal, testing the signal at every 350 meters, which you would never, ever do for like determining need for a new site. So to put it in perspective, our analysis uses a 20-meter bin. So every 20 meters, our program is checking the signal, because we want to make sure that we capture all the gaps. And that's how you get a detailed picture. This FCC map is really useless when it comes to site development, because it's such a huge area.
Do they do that themselves, or you're reporting the data? Because if you're reporting the data, then you're reporting the incorrect data that you just stated.
Well, you'd have to see what the FCC requires, and I'm not privy to that. I don't know the answer.
No, but how do they have a guy with a hat on that says, I'm from the FCC, and every 350 clicks, they're taking a range of a test of the signal, or you're reporting it to them?
I'm gonna let the engineers, and we might have to go to headquarters for that, because that's a little way above my grade.
Well, it's certainly above my grade, but this board
We
needs
should
to
find that out.
With the Rick, I just note that I've been doing quick research on this question. Apparently one of the accuracy challenges that's been well reported, and several states have even challenged these maps, mostly for funding flow, is that the reporting the service providers give uses the census geography, which census track and block, which I challenge anyone in this room to go out there and figure out where your census track is. And it gets reported that way, but what shows up on the FCC site are actual individual houses now.
But who's reporting?
So there's a
the data?
translation problem.
Who's reporting the data?
The service providers.
We are,
So
the
you
carriers are.
So
But
if you're
they're gonna-
reporting 350
Well, and
clicks,
don't quote me on 350. That was the engineer's quick. Hey, I'm doing the analysis. It could be a little less, could be a little more. The point is, we use 20-meter bins, a meter of 20 areas. Because if you use 300, 350, whatever the number is, any qualified RF engineer will tell you that you exclude terrain with a 350 meter bin, and you exclude clutter from vegetation. So in other words, what you're seeing here is not necessarily reality. And I'm kind of shocked that maybe Mr. Chamberlain chose not to explain that to you, because it's pretty obvious
Well,
that people do this.
tell me something else. It does, I did see that it said mobile mobile, Verizon Mobile, AT&T, and I think one of them said, I may be wrong, but
There's a third provider.
there was a third provider. Why would you guys want to put up a tower with?
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile. Why would you want to put a tower up to serve people that already have service from somebody else?
We wouldn't, we'd be out of business. That's the point.
So this
And
suggests that-
we have all the technical information in there that demonstrates why we need this. But for years, I just say, the proof is in the fact that we weren't gonna spend $500,000 to build a tower that's not needed. I mean, doesn't make any sense. I still know you need the technical data, and we provided that, but we won't do that. We are not in the business of putting up, building assets to serve no one that, or serve people that are served already. We don't do that. It makes no sense. You know?
If for the board, the further research, apparently, in more recent years, the FCC's created a process by which you could challenge the maps. It might be useful for the board. For example, all my neighbors say I don't have service, but I go look at this map and it says I do. I can actually challenge that. It'd be useful to hear from Verizon if there are any challenges to the maps that they're aware of. Because it does give the impression that there's coverage in much of the town.
Oh, I know it does, and that's why we have to dig into the details. Because you could also look at Verizon's map on its website. It has an online map. And it's gonna show you a lot of coverage, but it's a marketing map, and people have sued us on that. And the courts have unanimously said, you can't rely on it. It's marketing because we have a disclaimer and all that, so.
Okay.
You know, that's.
So this question, we're gonna need answers to. I have our RF guy and Greg. The RF guy is Doug Fishman, and Greg is taking a look at it, at the whole Chamberlain study. Of course, there were two other items, and I don't want you to comment on them right now.
Yeah.
But one had to do with drop calls analysis, and the other had to do with some other way of assessing, I forget the name of it. But they suggested there was a different industry standard in assessing need, and it mentions.
Oh, the gold standard drive test from 1990s, that was the gold standard back then.
So
Not appropriate now.
we'll await getting the information from our engineers.
I would like to say one thing though, and that is it's your code, and so the courts are pretty clear. You cannot, as a municipality, request specific data to prove need unless it's set forth in your code. And that's where the drop call, drive test data arguments have come up. It's clear. The federal courts are clear on that. Your
It is in our
code,
code.
what's that?
It is in our code.
But it doesn't specify that data has to be done. It doesn't say drop calls, it doesn't say drive test. In fact, what it says is under radio plots, it says the primary way to determine need is through these RF propagation plots. So your code actually says that's what we provided is what we're supposed to provide.
Scott, I want to unpack that just.
No, go ahead.
I'm looking right here at what I believe is the actual clause that we're concerned about. It says the written report demonstrating the need for such services which shall illustrate gaps in current services and show how the proposal will remedy these gaps is one of the requirements. Now, you were saying I think it's the only statement that we have of it. And you're saying now that there's some decision making, some authority that has boiled that down to something, the propagation maps and so.
Well, so no, I'm sorry, what I just said was, if you look at the definition of radio plot in your code.
Radio plot.
I don't know what, 29 under the definition sections. And it has several sentences there, but one of the sentences basically says. The primary means by which need is determined is through radio frequency plots, the same as what we did. So that was the only other section in your code that I saw that dealt with this.
You said that's in the definition.
It's in the definition of radio plot.
Okay.
Do we have the flood in the initial submittal or?
I'm sorry.
Do we have those floods?
Absolutely. In fact, we supplement them a few times, but.
Yeah, it's here. It's on page 195 in our code, radio plots. So the body of the code 140.29 that Dave read says that we must ask them, we have the ability to ask for proof of the need by using radio plots.
Yes.
And there's a definition for radio plots. And I'm not a telecommunication expert, so
But Dave, I think your question was, what are the courts said, and so there have been some lawsuits where, and Verizon's been involved with them at times, where they sue and they say, oh, that information you provided is not good enough to demonstrate need, you have to provide dropped call data, you have to provide this. And the federal courts that have dealt with this in New York have said, no, you don't have to actually. The municipality cannot ask for something that is not set forth in the code in terms of need,
In our code or the FCC?
just in your code.
Our code says radio plots, but it doesn't talk about whether it's 350 clicks or
Right.
50 click, doesn't say anything about that.
The industry standard is for a new macro tower is anywhere between 10 and 30 bins. Meter bins. Because, and it depends if it's rural and or suburban. So for this municipality, the engineer determined it is somewhat rural, a little suburban, so they basically made 20-meter bins, the standard.
Scott, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
This issue, because it's the comments that, you know, we've received from the citizens, consultants. This issue is emerging as a very critical issue for the project. I think we're seeing that. The things that you're saying now, I would appreciate seeing in a memo. I know we've got a lot to do, we've done a lot. I would also just editorialize a little bit that I know you started by saying you were gonna be perhaps further commenting on the credentials of some of the other folks or perhaps the style of writing. I would advise everybody from my perspective, and I think it's gonna be important for a number of reasons, to focus on, I'm concerned that we're starting to go on limb after limb after limb and getting out to a place that nobody wants to be for both stylistic reasons and because frankly, some of it's a waste of time and I'm spending weekends now trying to get through it. If you could get the issue of need boiled down to the specifics that you're saying that they are, so we could take a look at it. And I would prioritize that over the things that we were discussing before as to whether we're going to be looking into things like the academic histories of people and things.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna look at it as academic history because
What
I hear you saying, your point is a substantive.
Well, let's be the essential issue before we get to the.
I think what Dave is saying in a lawyerly way, don't send any letters that you send to us with any more gobbledygook in it.
Well, I'm not, even if it was
I'm
done
not sure I
in a
have yet,
dignified
but
way.
okay.
This is a really central issue and let's take care of the central issues and the same advice would go to anybody that's commenting. I think it's gonna be helpful and it may cut down on a lot of the stresses and it may cut down on a lot of the other stuff. I'd love to see more about this and less about, you know, whether somebody said something wrong.
So, just a few, Scott, do you have anything else?
No, unless you
Based on
want
what
to
you
talk
heard
about
tonight?
other issues, but I provided some case law in those where
Okay.
he's suggesting certain things and saying you have to do this, you have to do that. And my response is sorry, but the federal cases say actually you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah, show that.
Okay, good.
I also have a clarifying question. I asked you originally whether it was sort of apples and oranges in terms of the thing that the broadband maps were showing and where you were coming from in terms of need, whether in other words it was a redundancy thing or a percentage as opposed to just yes or no, we're covering it.
Yeah.
You started talking about plots that were 350 meters and instead of 20 meters. Was that the answer as opposed to where I was conjecturing, which was yes or no, as opposed to if there's too much traffic, we're gonna lose a certain percentage, that sort of thing.
I think the answer is we would never use something like what's in the FCC to determine need for a new site because it's just not accurate enough for us. And so we're not gonna waste all that money on, because what this does, it's like I said, it doesn't include terrain, it doesn't include vegetation.
Your answer goes down to the 350, that is your answer on that, is that
Yeah.
it's got a.
Our analysis is without question, significantly by the order of hundreds and almost 1,000 times much more accurate than what the FCC has on its website.
All right, so we're gonna get something from your engineer, wrapping this all in a easy to understand technical brief.
Yes, yeah.
If there is such a thing. And I want to address a few other things as well, and then I want to go through some new documents that we've gotten in, so everybody's up to speed, and then we can launch into some of the work that Dave, myself, Peter, and Helena did on Sunday, going through the town code. So, but give me a few minutes. We spoke already about my letter to a bunch of people about the personal attacks, and I don't think anything else needs to be said about that, just won't accept it. There was also an issue that was raised by Scott about some misspoken material that Mr. Berg, Attorney Berg, submitted to the board that inserted at least one word into a court case that would lead you to believe the court case said something that it didn't say, and put quotes around it. So Scott wrote us a letter. He also wrote a letter to Robert Berg, the attorney. And we received, I think it was last night or Saturday night, Attorney Berg sent a letter out apologizing for the error. And he explained how the error occurred. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. I did. Listen, he apologized. He explained how it happened. One of the ways that it happens is there's so much information coming to us. Like, I can't believe it hasn't happened a couple of times with his misquotes, but this one's pretty particular in terms of supporting a case around what does preemption deal with? Does it deal with humans? Does it deal with all matters of mammals, amphibians, avian birds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So be that as it may, I don't want to see that again. And what I am doing or trying to do is I'm going back over every document from the gentleman that has a quote quoting a court case, and I'm going back and just seeing if there's anything else like this. It's not that I don't trust the gentleman, it's just, well, you did it once, what else is out there that we need to know about? Having said that, I personally accept the apology and the explanation. And I'll leave my comments at that. And if the board wants to comment, you've all read it, I'm sure, with rapt attention, starting with last Thursday night. If anybody else has comments, I did ask for full disclosure. I did meet with Larry Friedman, Mr. Friedman, since he's the person who hired Mr. Berg. And I suggested very strongly that Mr. Berg is not doing anybody any favors by working on this case. And that's when Mr. Friedman told me that he's extremely distraught. Mr. Friedman himself is extremely distraught that this happened on his watch, so to speak, and on his dime, equally, so to speak. I did suggest that he dumped Mr. Berg, for lack of a better term. But Mr. Berg has apologized. He's given an explanation, and I'm going to leave it at that. If the board wants to make any comments, fine. If the board feels we should follow up on it, there's nothing else for us to do. We can't fire Mr. Berg. Don't look at me like that, Council. Holding your head.
Looks, you're good.
He's giving me one of those looks. Shut up while you're ahead. So I'm gonna shut up while I'm ahead. Anybody have any other comments?
I mean, I went to law school and in the first year we had a lesson about ethics. And I remember there's one sentence our professor said to us is how you destroy your credibility in your professional standing. And he said that, I remember this to this day, is an attorney who misquotes authority compromises the integrity of both the argument and the profession. And that's a serious professional violation what happened in my view. So.
And I think whatever we get from this point forward from anybody, okay? And there's surely a lot of stuff we're getting from a lot of different people. If you choose not to read it, that's fine. If you choose to read it with be a doubtful Thomas. And what more can I say? I was disappointed to see that. But it happened, and there's an apology on the table. That's it.
I just want to make one point on this, and it's along the lines of what I was saying before. For me, the bigger disappointment, I mean, people make mistakes, and we could try to figure out whether it was mistake that was on purpose or a mistake that was a mistake, but to me, the bigger problem here is, and I read his explanation, and it's plausible that usually you give somebody the benefit of the doubt. To me, the bigger problem is number one, the mistake that was made, if he had put brackets around those words, it would have been probably okay, and it was really where the court was, and the bigger problem was we were diving deeply into a court case on what's ultimately, there were 4 or 5 of them. This is ultimately kind of a long shot issue. He was trying to make what I described last session here as a rhetorical argument, and the point is, we're just spending a lot of time and effort on things that are not ultimately where this is going to turn out, and that to me is a bigger issue actually, because in terms of credibility, in terms of confusion, in terms of our own effort. I was traveling most of yesterday through airports. I was spending a lot of time trying to, because you know how many letters, for example, have been sent, starting with the original claim letter? I spent another hour in the office today just trying to find the original letter. And it's just, like I said, if there's an issue with respect to need, I want to know what it is and et cetera. But at some point, we're just spinning our wheels a lot. And so, you know, this was an error. Obviously, it was a misquote. It does happen. In fact, I think Mr. Olson, in commenting on it, also missed a particular word that was accurately done. And so, the more you get into extraneous or far field and extra work, the more, especially under pressure, time constraints, et cetera, things like this are going to happen. The bigger problem, I would ask everybody to focus on the main issues and try to limit the extent of the arguments, because every time you go out there, the letters go back and forth, and we end up looking at 5 other court cases, and it's just going to slow things down, make it more expensive, make it more difficult, and make it less accurate. And that's the big concern to me. And even with respect to the misquote, to me, the bigger credibility issue is, are people focusing on the facts? Are people focusing on what the issues are going to be? And if they're not, and I don't mean a particular word, I mean documents and submittals and further letters, that gets to credibility in my book. And that's what I was going to write the board a memo on that. Maybe I'll just cut that short. But I understand everybody being upset about a potential misquote, particularly where there's an argument that it's tactical, right? But overall, I think we need to focus on the issues. The amount of verbiage that has been submitted to this board on this application is frankly astonishing. I'm putting together files, and it's just, there are dozens of documents at this point, and I'll tell you, I'll put one other marker on the table. In New York State courts, on most things that are submitted, the submitter gets make his point, there's a response, and typically there's a reply, and that's it. I mean, you may think, but Your Honor, I got one more point to make. You got to know this. The answer is no. You can apply to the court for leave to do that, but you know the court is willing to shut it off, even at the risk of the next person doesn't get to speak, might miss some collateral point. But the idea is, if you didn't say it in the first two documents, we can't do it anymore. There's not enough time for that, and so we may want to import some of that discipline into what we're doing, because the idea that we're going to continue. And I will give the board, you know, written breakdown of my thoughts here, but I think the bigger issue in terms of credibility, in terms of focus, is you know, focusing on the issues and going there. And at some point, we take what's been submitted, and I just want to make to the point you made. People have a right to their own counsel. People have a right to say anything they want to us, really. You can obviously advise them, but the bigger issue is, once you submit something, what's it worth? And doesn't need to go back and forth on it.
So, all right, enough said. Larry, thank you for meeting with me and for getting the apology from Mr. Berg. And I think it's safe to say the board is willing to accept it with all the caveats around credibility. But thank you for working on it.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rick, for that. I think Bob is humbled by what happened. I litigated for 40 years. I dare say this is not the only occasion on which a lawyer mistakenly misquoted something. I've done it, and I felt terrible. But I don't think this is a basis on which to say that things in the future that come from Mr. Berg don't deserve credibility. He screwed up. We all screwed up. We're all human and we make mistakes. But I don't think the service that he can provide here should be jettisoned because he made a mistake. He apologized. I appreciate that you think the apology and the explanation are reasonable. But I have to also say that, again, with 40 years of litigation experience, I agree wholeheartedly with what Dave Gordon said, that the successive rounds of reply and sir reply and sir reply is really out of hand. And I, for one, will contribute to resolving that. But I have to say that both sides have to abide by that, because it's really quite an control.
But at some point, you know, the flip side, at some point, it's just a person that may want to say something again, or so reply, or so reply, it doesn't happen. And yes, there's no rule here, but it's up to, you know, you have a right to comment. And so ultimately it's that self-discipline of focusing. I'll give you another example. You said just before very helpfully that if we looked at page 9 to 11 of Mr. Chamberlain's submittal, and first thing, I wasn't even aware of that. I looked again running through the airports, I looked at it briefly, but it's like, why is that on page 9 to 11? If you know, you've litigated, if you have what you might consider to be the killer app, the killer argument, you're probably not going to put it up unless there's a long, you know, introductory section or something like that. You're not, you know, you got to make sure we see it, right? So same idea. If there's something important, the way to make sure we see it is to put it. Is
Let me keep going. I may make some other comments that.
I do, Mr. Chair, I do hope that when the board receives further submissions from Mr. Berg, that they don't view him as not entitled to respect and not entitled to belief, because he made this mistake for which he's apologized, and I think his explanation, as you said, Mr. Chair, is reasonable. So
I'm gonna let everybody make their own determination.
absolutely.
I have a lot of respect for anybody who can put together the number of documents that he put together. That's for sure. And I have read them all and I've learned a lot. And I'll continue to learn a lot, but does that mean I'm gonna believe everything or use it in my decision? I don't know. We each have our own way of collapsing and synthesizing information and coming together on a decision. And and God knows my middle name is not Solomon, so I'm not claiming any kind of extra ability to divine different things that are put in writing. All right, so enough said. Before I say something else.
Wait, remember your voice.
Oh, my voice, yes, my voice. Okay, so let's go through. I want to mention a couple of documents that we've received. I just want to remind people of them. And I'm going to give some conclusions because we need to, as a board, to begin to make some conclusions and start working towards a decision. Now, and I hope we come to a decision tonight as to how we're going to get there. Not the final decision, but when we're gonna cut off the public hearing. And still have comments from the public. I'm not cutting off comments, but at some point we need to get to work. We need to get to the seeker determination of significance. We also need to work on our town code, which I want to get to tonight. We went through the town code step by step or section by section to determine if it's been satisfied or if it hasn't been satisfied, if there's more work to be necessary. That's necessary. So I'm going to read a few documents that I've gotten and mention to the board that I think certain issues have been settled, at least in my mind. It may not be in your mind. And so that could form some of the discussion for tonight. If you remember a while ago, we received something from Mr. Laird, Joshua Laird of PIPC, and it indicated that he thought there was significant impact, visual impact, based upon some of the photos he had received. We subsequently got a letter from Joshua Laird sent to us by Mr. Shook, who's I guess his operating manager. It was dated 11/6, and he indicated that they misused 5 of the 5 photos that caused the conclusion that there was visual impact in accordance with the DEC's criteria. And they simply said that they, my words, they misspoke. And that they did not see from Minnewaska, from 3 different sites, from Stony Kill Falls, the ADA path, and from the parking lot. They did not see any need for concern around visual impact from their perspective. That's from Joshua Laird. So it's a mea culpa, and here's what we really believe. The 5 photos were not, they were all cropped and or telephotoed, and so they couldn't possibly be accurate in the kind of accuracy that we wanted. He did ask that we reconsider looking at a monopene pole, which is what I call the Frankenstein pole. So I've asked Matt Allen to do that, to redo his work from the 2 viewpoints on 4455, doing a monopene pole, but also doing it at a different height, 120 feet. And also to do the same from 209. So Matt Allen's gonna do those. So from my perspective, the issue of what we've been calling inventoried resources, which means those resources in Minnewaska, Mohawk, along 4455, those that have been inventoried by various historical groups, by SHPO, whatever. From my perspective, we're just about there in terms of that criteria used to do that evaluation, which is the DEC criteria, which is not the same as our town board, our town code criteria, that there is no impact. And you saw a letter from Matt Allen dated October 31st, where he went through each of the inventory resources and he gave his professional opinion. And he did it much more eloquently than I just did, but it's there for the reading. Remember, you all don't have to agree with even his determination, right? It's subjective. This is his professional, and he makes it clear that a rational person, and we're all rational, could come to a different conclusion because they have a different set of how to evaluate the criteria that is used. So it's not math, that 2 and 2 is supposed to add up to 4. You can come to a different conclusion. So I just want to mention that. But I've concluded, at least with the inventory resources, that's the case, that there is no impact, no visual impact. It says nothing to the local resources, and Matt Allen judiciously said he's not weighing in on the evaluation of the local resources. I can't imagine why. And we have to use the town codes criteria, which is very strict. So he was not going to weigh in on that. Be that as it may. So that's one set of letters. And then we have the issue of, excuse me, we have the issue of the preemption. The whole issue of radio frequency and how radio frequency waves affect the environment. And Dave, I'm leaving that to you to give us a final legal opinion about all the court cases that have been floating around.
On which issue?
On the preemption issue,
With respect to non-human impacts on
human, non-human, right?
I'll get you some.
So we need that. Okay, that seems to be to my way of thinking, one of the other major issues that we need to deal with. And I'll call it RF, call it preemption, whatever. But
the scope of the preemption is only human health, or does it extend to the natural environment?
Okay. The issue, so those are 2 issues. One seems, well, there's 3. The inventory resources is settled, but you can have a different opinion. The town code we've got to get to. The preemption, Dave's going to get us a letter around. This whole issue of the needs assessment concerns me, that we were talking about tonight, the letter from Mr.
Chamberlain.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Well,
So
Scott said he was gonna give us a
he's gonna
breakdown.
get us a professional engineer to comment on it. I sent it to Greg Bolner and I sent it to Doug Fishman to also comment on. So we should have that. We won't have the letter from Doug Fishman until November 17th. He's on vacation, but he'll have it to us by the 17th. and Greg indicated he'd have something this week. So we'll see if that happens.
We're still waiting for Ulster County Planning Board as well, right?
Sorry,
Still waiting for the planning board as well, right?
Yep.
Ulster County.
yep, good point. We submitted it to them. They sat and reviewed it last Wednesday. And I don't expect, I'm not asking any favors to hurry up, let them take whatever amount of time it takes. I expect, Dave, maybe you have some insights. I know
Well, we
we
don't-
at least,
Short of pestering them, it's gonna take a couple weeks.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
County. The county on its own devices will. Get you the review memo in 2 weeks or more.
so why don't we pester them to get it to us within 2 weeks,
I'll, sure,
whatever you can.
You mean 2 weeks after their meeting?
Yeah.
you do have the two other. We I filed on behalf of the town, submission to New York State DEC Natural Heritage Program. Their preamble says that they're not gonna critique the project, they're just gonna tell you if there's any resources. Natural resources of concern in the vicinity. It's just gonna be factual information. And then the Laird memo, or was it Shook's email cover
Sure.
to that? And suggests that there may be a new memo coming from New York State Parks.
That came from Sugar.
Uh,
So SHPO commented,
it's
PIPC has commented.
it's confusing, for sure. SHPO is a unit of state parks. We have that memo from quite a while ago. And that's been reaffirmed, I think, and
Yes.
Palisades Interstate Park Commission is also the regional office of New York State Parks. We now have multiple memos from them. And there is the main office of New York State Parks, which Matt Shook's email to Rick suggests we are getting a memo from as well.
So we'll see what that says.
We
Okay.
haven't received anything though, right, Rick?
No.
It may be to clarify the confusion over the SHPO. There was early on, the applicant coordinated under NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act, which got deferred to SHPO, who replied promptly. However, Palisades Park suggested we apply to SHPO. So, and when we told them that had happened already, it may be the memo from State Parks is gonna clarify what that all means.
Do you want to comment at all on your impression of what Ulster County Planning Board is? No, I'm not gonna go there.
I don't.
We'll wait till.
They did, while Rick was sequestered and working the polls, in a place with no reception, right, Rick? Or at least by firsthand experience, county planning inquired to Rick and I if there was any new information that they should be aware of, because their meeting was the next night. And I said, well, Rick's away, Rick's sequestered, and no reception, but the only way to keep track on this project is to stay on Unicolab almost hourly, it seems like. And yes, indeed, things came in, so I forwarded some essential stuff. At that point, we had just gotten the Matt Allen memo, right, on visual impact. He in turn suggested they may make some recommendations on further analysis of visual impact, but to be determined.
Alrighty, so let's get into the town code items. Or do we want to talk about waivers?
Yeah, there's a little confusion about it. Let me just explain my idea, and this is entirely up to where the board wants to go. But for two reasons, I suggested, and the board originally adopted this, but you can change your mind if you want. I suggested basically backloading the issue of the waiver, and Mr. Stern raised a question which actually relates to that, but here's what I'm thinking, and you guys could decide. To me, the waiver question I mean, it could stand alone, and I think that's what many people would have instinctively thought, that it would stand alone and also that it would come first. I think actually Scott mentioned that that was his expectation a while back, and that when we didn't do it, that's one of the reasons they went to the ZBA. To me, for the board, the waiver question is almost inextricably bound up with the ultimate question of site plan approval. The applicant has proposed a 145-foot tower. The code is roughly at 95 feet. This project doesn't exist without a waiver, right? I mean, now there's going to be all kinds of questions as to what the waiver might be and what the rationale is for it. And I list a whole bunch of criteria by combining basically the criteria of everything that was noted. But for the board to grant a waiver under whatever, let's say the front loaded, to do a waiver, at the back end, when you then decide on site plan approval, it seems to me you will have already gone pretty far. And therefore, also seemed to me that the waiver, and legally you can make this argument as well, that the waiver itself would basically be subject to seeker, that the same seeker analysis, and seeker is where we're putting in all of the environmental considerations. That's a requirement for us to do before we give site plan approval. And so does it make any sense to do the waiver, which is fundamentally going to be a big chunk of your yes or no on this thing, A, separate from site plan approval, and B, in front of your seeker analysis?
Could I jump in?
Yeah.
So we did talk about this 2 months ago, I think. Time flies when you're having fun. But the way I put it was, many of the items that Dave had listed to help us come up with a waiver out of whole cloth right at the start were essentially items that we would be covering in seeker, things like the visual impact, the needs analysis, the impact, if we're allowed to do it.
And the site plan approval.
And site plan approval. So what I suggested to the board is, look, rather than debating the waiver, yes or no, and whether 50 feet, which is a little bit more than half of 95, whether 50 feet is appropriate, or 50.5 feet is appropriate, or 10 feet is appropriate, or I put it in terms of, rather than debate how many angels dance on the tip of a pin with no information, why don't we get through seeker and all the components of seeker to determine if this project even flies? Whether it's at 95 feet, things like community character, that may not matter at any foot, at any height. So I thought it would be more appropriate to go through all of the seeker stuff, and a lot of the answers that we get from seeker would be appropriately fit into some of the criteria, if not all the criteria, that Dave gave us in order to make our waiver decision. It kind of was linked together.
That's basically what
So
I
it's
was
like
saying.
putting rather than putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, rather, let's do it in the appropriate
And
time
seeker
frame.
also requires a reasonable worst case scenario, which would be presumably 145. So looking at the analysis for 145 would be appropriate under seeker. And then to your point about deciding about the waiver later, we would have an analysis that evaluates 145, so we'd be able to make a informed decision at that point versus an analysis at 95 feet, because then we wouldn't know what the impacts are at 145.
So that's how I looked at it. The board seemed to like that. The applicant didn't, and that's one of the reasons why they went to the ZBA. Which is fine, they're allowed to do that. And I still stand by that, doing it that way. So if we're okay with that, we'll just proceed beyond the question of the waiver. We'll consider it as part of seeker.
Does anybody have a different point of view? Because Rick and I basically said offshoots of the same thing. So does anybody have a contrary point of view?
I'm confused with that statement, because if you look at that 140-29 wireless telecommunication facilities, it's talking about tower being 50 feet above the tree line, a maximum 150.
Right.
So why are we talking about having waiver for another paragraph in the code. That's what
I'm not following.
You follow me?
No.
Because there's another subsection that grants the board the authority to give a waiver to height.
No, I understand, but
Same
why,
subset-
why,
same
do they-
section.
why,
Well, it's a different
why they need a
subsection.
waiver if the code says maximum 150 or 50 feet above the tree line?
Because the 50 feet above the tree line is 95. They're proposing 145.
The CEO at the outset, apparently, our building inspector
Said that
assessed
tree
that the
lines-
tree line was 45.
Okay.
Now I get, and so 50 feet over that is the 95.
That's why, Zor, you may not have followed, but that's why the waiver is functionally going to be the decision on site plan approval. They don't get a waiver, then the answer is no. If they do get, suppose you give them a waiver up to 130 feet, then that's gonna kind of govern your site plan approval. And even more so, the other concern about front loading it, if you were to front load it, let's say get it out in front of seeker, you're essentially making a decision on the waiver without a lot of the information and analysis you're gonna generate on the sequence. And many people would have thought that that would be the way to go, because you kind of do things like that in terms of you get the zoning cleared away. I think the applicant thought that, but the truth is you'd be making that decision without generating the information, and that decision is gonna largely govern what the ultimate decision. So that was my way of that was my way of evaluating it and putting it in that order, but I want to hear if there was a different perspective.
But my question is, why would we need consider the code said maximum 150?
That was on the waiver, right?
No, it's.
No, it says there's a,
Update the definition of what the. Says ground mounted wireless telecommunication towers shall not exceed the height of the nearest tree line plus 50 feet. No tower shall exceed 150 feet in height
Well,
in
so
any
there's-
district.
it has to,
There's requirement A and requirement B, and B they comply with, but A, they're way off, so they need a waiver. Both requirements apply. Tree line plus 50 and 150, those are your two height requirements. One they have and one they don't, and so they need a waiver from the one they don't. That's the short answer.
Just to
Right.
close this, Rick, on the.
Yep.
I accept that the CEO may have determined the 45 feet is the tree line. I couldn't find that anywhere. And I would advise the board that we need to set what the tree line height is. That using the standard in your code, somebody's got to, you've got to confirm what it is. It's been this assumption all along that it's 45 feet, but I don't know where that's documented.
What's the delta? I mean,
It's being a trained field geologist, there's means why you can go out there and measure tree height.
I get that, but how much, but if.
I don't know, do you know?
No, but I don't
30
think,
feet? Is it,
it's gonna be about 65?
it seems to be important in this case.
Yeah, but they're gonna need a big waiver anyway.
Well, 65 versus 30 is a big difference.
Okay.
I would just suggest, since it's the foundational measurement from which any waiver or height is.
What would be the process to nail that down?
Well, there's 3 or 4 different field methods. The most common one is use right angle trigonometry.
No, I mean, who's gonna do it?
Somebody's got to go out there with a field skill and make a genuine, could be me, could be Greg. And make a.
why don't you and Greg,
You're the chair.
why don't you and Greg have a field trip with all of your abacuses and astrolabs and triangle, and let me know so I can learn a new technology.
No problem.
Triangulation?
I know how to do triangulation, triangulate.
Unless you can evidence that this
No,
is,
you know what?
this has been documented is what the tree line is.
Shame on me. That's what came from the CEO's office, but you can't, that's what we're all led to believe, but you can't find it anywhere.
So far, but confessionally, what are we at, Stacy, now? Over 200 documents, well over 200
I don't
documents?
even wanna look,
It may be in the
at
plans.
least.
The documentation may have been from Tectonic in the plans when they were on the site. That's my recollection, but
For 45? 45 feet?
yeah, but I'd have to look, so I have to look at the plans and see if it said it there.
I
And
think we should, the board should just set it.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Seems like if you and Greg can do it, let's.
All right.
let's-
2:30.
230.
235.
All right, so Dave, you and Greg.
All right, we'll get you a measurement.
I have a question, does would Tectonic have that data in the drone flight taken at the site?
Oh.
Cause they landed, and then they went up and they were using that data to confirm the height of the balloon along with the tape attached to the manlet. So I think the data is
Yeah, they could
probably
get the
there.
elevation from a drone.
Well, yeah, they already did
Yeah,
it.
I'll ask them, it just depends on how close obviously they wanna keep drones away from trees.
Well, yeah,
But
but
they
they
should
went
be able
straight
to-
up and they
yeah.
were filming the entire time.
I'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I think the data is probably in there.
That data should be there because we use drones for
Yeah.
precisely information like that.
Exactly.
After the shock of hearing,
I'll ask them.
after the shock of hearing that we can't find where that was actually said, it'd be logical that it would be said by your engineers, because you came to the CEO.
Yeah.
So before we send Dave and Greg out on the field trip, why don't you see what you can find?
I will.
And
Mickey should have that, I
Yeah.
think.
They
He
they
was
have all
he
the
was
drone footage,
Yeah, he was the the
Yeah.
drone
Okay.
operator.
but even before that, they do stuff when they're out there,
Okay.
well before the plans and everything.
All right, let's get into thanks, Scott. Let's get into the process that we went over, Dave, myself, Peter, and Alina. We took 140-29 or Dave took it, and he broke down each one of the sections. And we sat there and we made a determination whether or not these items were covered or not. And we thought it was appropriate at this point in time to review it with the board, but also if we need to make changes and additions, of course, you can see we didn't fill the whole thing out. So Dave, you want to explain? Unless you feel I did a good enough job. You
Yeah,
wanna go-
sure. You want to go one by one?
Yep, let's do that. Some are
Okay,
very
so,
easy.
in seeking to try to get you, some structure to focus on, the ultimate decision, whatever way it goes. I worked with, as Rick said, Rick and Helena and Peter, to itemize the portions. This is just this section of the code, 140-29. Arguably, there are standards in the code for what a proper site plan is, what a proper special use application is, which we'll also have to cover ultimately. Some of them overlap into what's into the 140-29, which is specific to telecommunication facilities. Our effort was to itemize those where there's a decision. There's a lot of other sections. The purpose and intent section of that part of the code has other items, but they're just statements that aren't really measurable. So if we miss something, we'll need to hear about that. But starting with the purpose section, it states you're supposed to ensure the least possible adverse effect. That's the first one. We created this to just have you as a worksheet, a column with, do you believe that completed or not? If not, do you need more information or you just haven't gotten to it? And then provide some notes. It's filled in spots where at least there was a consensus of the four of us, what is answerable, but the rest of them are debatable.
This
So,
is really helpful. Can we get this electronically?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think it's on Uniclab.
It's in
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, yeah, it's a posting from this, I don't know, Stacy,
Today.
midday today.
Okay.
Today.
That's,
It's in,
So they're purpose statements. Maybe
additional
I'll whip
facilities.
through these and slow me down because there's some more substantive aspects of the code. The purpose statement also says you have to minimize negative impact on surroundings and protect the town. And I'm paraphrasing. These statements are longer in the actual code. Now that we've decided to note here, we're waiting for this New York State Parks possible memo and the Ulster County Planning Board review, which we expect, both of which may address these issues. It's to adequately serve needs. Actually, if you read that, that's actually a pro telecommunications facility statement in the purpose statement. They want the population to have adequate service, is what your code says. So we've highlighted that ultimately as your RF expert should weigh in, which is subject to the additional information you got from Chamberlain and others.
Dave,
Yep,
can I just, in this need on 140-29A, item 5. I don't think we talked about it, but it states minimize adverse aesthetic and visual impacts to protect the natural features and aesthetic character of the town, special attention to the historic preservation overlay district, Shawangum Ridge, Mohawk Preserve, and Catskill Preserve.
correct.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about that. Do we feel that?
Well, it's not, so there's 4 specific resource areas identified, right?
Yep.
It's not in 3 of them.
Okay,
It's not in the Catskill Park.
or, okay,
It's right, it's not in the
Right.
historic preservation overlay.
and it's only
But
the,
it's clearly, you know,
on
at
the
the,
ridge,
on the
okay,
lower flank of the ridge, so it's a big question. Still to be resolved.
okay.
The code says to provide range of options and coverage for new facilities. Again, that's a statement about, it's a pro statement about having adequate service. You should encourage creative approaches, including sharing. So the code says, rather than be sure that instead of a new tower, could they share somewhere? Or some other approach. But these are general statements. And establish a fair and efficient process. So we left those unanswered. Any discussion on the purpose statements?
No.
Okay. Ultimately,
The only statement I have is these are things that keep in the back of our mind, when we're getting to making the decision. These are important, statements of purpose. As much as what you just read, Alina, and the statement in the code that talks about how to assess the visual impact. There's a whole paragraph there that Dave gave us about 2 meetings ago, how to assess the visual impact.
Right, I remember that.
You
That
have
was a
the
good map.
DEC criteria, but then you had the town code criteria, and it's totally different, far more stringent, so that'll come up in here as well.
Yes,
and I should note too, the left-hand column numbers are just for reference purposes, they're not out of the code. So number 8, your code requires a seeker full environmental assessment form. As you recall, this has been filed, revised, 2-3 times. It's on file. Next one, it's got to be consistent with the town comprehensive plan, which you've had some public comment about. We've got a process that I need to help start, where we're going to itemize the town plans that have been formally adopted. And with 3 volunteers here, we're going to share the job of going through those, looking for key references and key phrases to see, to make a measurement of consistency to report back to the board the next time we talk about this.
I heard some of those quotes today from one of the commentators.
Right.
So Stacy will have it in the minutes. You can use those comments.
The challenge, which I can defer to the attorney, is the way it works is a comprehensive plan in relationship to land use regulations. Land use regulations in New York State must be consistent with a comprehensive plan. So there's a presumption that the code for telecommunications towers has already addressed the consistency with your plan. The tricky part is you've adopted plan elements since the adoption of the telecommunication code, as I understand it. I worked on one, the Natural Heritage Plan, the Community Preservation Plan, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to have to go through these and make sure there's some consistency. Let's see here. Next one is 140-29 B6 is there shall be no basis on environmental effects of radio frequency emissions.
No
decision made. So your code versus the federal code makes that statement.
The code, as I recall, the code has a number of provisions that mirror the Telecommunications Act provisions, of which this is one. And my strong suggestion would be that because there is you know, reasonable amount of case law and, you know, FCC decisions and research under the under the Telecommunications Act, and very, very little under ours. We accept the federal decisions basically to govern the same language in our code. We could theoretically go in a different direction, but there seems to be no reason to do so, since the code was, in my view, drafted to just sort of import the federal TCA rules into our code. That makes sense?
Yep.
Thoughts, comments, anything? Keep going.
Yeah.
14029 ED prohibits towers in the floodplain overlay, which is not an issue here. 29E little e prohibits them in wetlands. I think for the applicant, we're gonna need at least in our work session, we need to make sure we've got the 100-foot buffer. The town code requires a 100-foot buffer on any wetland, regardless of which jurisdiction determine it's a wetland. And I couldn't recall on the site plan if the buffer shown.
I think it is because we did a delineation.
Okay.
Did we ever get that?
But we,
Yeah, I probably believe so, on
But
part of
the-
the updated plans.
I remember
But
seeing,
there's
I remember
a,
seeing a request from Dan Weinheimer to get the delineation, but I looked for it today, I couldn't find it.
yeah, if there was, correct,
I'll
I was
confirm it.
having problems finding it.
I'll confirm. I thought that that Todd took the information from the delineation and put it on the revised plan, but I will check.
There was one wetlands map that I remember Helena and I looked at on
Yeah,
the first day of the
early on,
balloon.
right.
Right, that was it,
That was
but
it.
when we were at this, when we finally saw that, we said, oh,
But I
we
never
didn't know
saw,
there were wetlands here.
I never saw anything from the DEC on that. So.
but then we'll need to, whatever that determination is, ultimately, there needs to be a 100-foot drawn around that as per town.
Oh, were they state?
And I don't, Rick, it to be determined if what the impact would be of the buffer.
I have to see what the buffer is.
14029 EF says the no tower can be higher than the Shawano Ridge line. We're not there. Well, how to get copy to flip over here. 14029 GA support structure needs to be the least visibly intrusive. So this gets to the board's ultimate, if you get to that point of looking at alternative tower heights and locations and design. Monopole versus guideline, monoline, those kinds of things. It's your code standard says the structure shall be the least visually obtrusive. To be determined.
Well, that's what the secret analysis is gonna help us with, right?
Yeah. Correct. Anything, comments? So keep going. Next subsection, B, I, height not exceed nearest tree line plus 50 feet, we talked about earlier. Next item, B, double I. There's a height waiver authorization to the board that's made on written request and with justification that's been requested by the applicant. So you've been asked to consider a waiver. Next subsection, minimum setback of the structure shall be 110% of the height as measured from the compound fence line.
Which is a 50 by 50 square.
I was wondering about this one.
Yeah.
And at their request, and this color coding, and for the public, this is on Munich Lab now. The blue is recommended that the town engineer review this with the applicant. And the green is the RF, Doug Fishman, review this, which we get to down below. And the red is, these are first priority decisions you need to consider, which includes setting this height. So this one we've got is a part of a bundle that we need the town engineer Greg Bolner to confirm. Yep.
So the comment is, with that setback requirement, how does that pertain to the definition of the fall zone? Because the fall zone, the definition is the adjacent area in which a wireless support structure may be expected to fall in the event of a structural failure as measured by professional engineering standards. Is the 110% setback, is that part and parcel of the fall zone?
I'm just assuming from experience in other jurisdictions, it's the under 10% is the unlikelihood that a thing tower
Okay.
fails and tips over.
Okay, so then we,
Intact,
okay,
which is, I understand, what monopoles are not designed to do. They're designed to collapse internally
Well.
but we need.
I know
in a perfect world.
Yeah, and your code also has a definition, I think, for a break point.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm not an engineer, but they've used it all the time where they over design the bottom part of the tower up to a point. And then the top of the tower is designed to 100% structural capability. So this is what I call, I hate to use the word, the weak point, but it's because it's over designed on the bottom.
Right.
If there's that, it should fall, it falls off,
okay,
according to the engineer.
just because we had the comments from the, one of the residents
And we can,
in the apartment complex. And I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know if we have that incorporated. We can.
anecdotally, I think, we had back some years, we all thought these kinds of facilities would, if they were to collapse, unfortunately, would do so in a certain way. And then there was the Quebec ice storm, which showed these things can substantially fail under certain weather conditions, and they're literally tip over. So I think that's why codes have started to put in these enhanced setbacks.
Okay, well, we should just make sure that
Scott, we
they
had-
meet those
we had
setbacks
asked that
for
if
the
the
structure.
a radius, a fall radius be put on the site plan map.
I think it has
And I
been.
think
It has, but it's, when I'm looking at it right here on page 37 of the 675. It's got 169 plus or minus proposed tower rear yard setback. But it's from the tower, not from the perimeter.
Not from the perimeter.
Which is a 50 by 50 foot structure. So that probably needs to be revised. Cause it's from the center of the tower.
Okay. Does it comply?
It doesn't reach the building, but it'll be close when it's.
Okay,
It's not
According
in
to this.
If it's 169 to the building from the tower, and the thing is 50 by 50, that's 119.
No, it's 169 does not reach the building,
Does not reach it.
but it's from the center of the tower, not
Okay.
from
Not from
the
the outer.
perimeter of the 50 by 50s.
yeah, just.
Does it
But
indicate?
that's, sorry to interrupt, that's to a building, not the property line? I
It's
have it
not,
open.
it's not indicated here, but it is the.
But the setback is 110%.
But the property line is the building is in the property, isn't it?
Yes, it's the same property,
Same
so the
property.
property line doesn't come into play here.
Gotcha.
That was,
That makes sense.
But the back part of the property should also be checked. We need the perimeter.
we should just drill down on them.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they could submit a drawing that shows both the fall zone that we're talking about and the 110%. So you can see how it overlays with all,
Yeah.
right?
Go ahead, Dave.
You're keeping on this same section, another subsection on color. Your town code anticipates that the structure will be a single color designed to blend in with the surroundings. It does give you an exception that if you can grant an exception to that, to minimize visual impact, but anyway, it's which is proposed, it's single, right?
Yes.
Same subsection, no tower lights unless FAA required, any lights on the enclosure or the other purposes has to be full cutoffs, in essence, night sky lighting standards consistent with your code. So we'll have to get the specs if they're in the outside lighting on it.
You only,
Down in the closure.
yeah, it's gonna be on the H frame, 8 feet tall, whatever. And it's basically a switch on and automatic timer off, so that for some reason, if they were there at night and they left and didn't turn the switch off, it will automatically go off.
Yeah, and these are items that the town engineer needs to review for on your behalf. Site security is anticipated there be fencing, which is proposed. Your code prefers underground utilities getting the service. I don't know if that's the intent.
Yep, they're UG.
Okay. And the road access standards, the access road to the facility is supposed to meet the town private road standards, which are articulated in the code. Look, we okay? Keep going?
Keep going.
Then there's a next subsection 29H is itemizes the site plan requirements. Required documentation of owner authorization, documentation of a deed and or proposed lease if you're the applicant's proposing just lease the land. An agreement with a licensed carrier, you know.
We are the carrier.
Yeah, exactly. FCC documentation on compliance. NEPA and National Historic Preservation Act compliance, which I understand is in progress, right? But coming to a close, is that fair to say?
Yes.
So that's still to be received. We need technical documentation on the intended transmission tower, which is explained in the code. And you have this sheet, Scott?
Not with me, but I
It's
saw,
on Munich.
I saw Kamora.
Okay. We need the NIER levels, certification. We need a certification in writing of there'll be no interference with other telecommunication devices is what the code calls it. I believe those both need to be a memo from the applicant.
The NIER, we actually have, it's by a licensed PE that does it and confirms that it's 100 times less than that which we can legally emit, so no issues. I think we have the non-interference from Verizon engineer.
And this tool, to remind you, is when you think there's the question of whether you've received the documentation, then there'll be the question for the board on whether you find it adequate. And then fold that into your secret determination on some of these matters. There's the FAA certification, which I don't know, is there anything to be received? Because this is not enough.
No, so it's not, if you don't have to do a disturbance of airspace, you know, you don't file with them.
Continuing in that section on the under site plan, the town code expects details on the equipment and power specifications, including capacity for co-location. So the code details, there needs to be some specifics, which the town engineer is going to have to review. There has to be a certification of site stability with geotechnical evaluation from a licensed professional engineer. I don't know that we have it, do we?
No, we typically will do that after, if there's an approval, because it's an expensive item and it's never an item that prevents the tower from going up. We've never.
Well, then we're gonna have to talk, gentleman to my left on it's a requirement of the code for the site plan.
Does it
How do
say,
you do it afterwards?
does it say when it has to be delivered?
It's a provision in to complete the site plan review.
So we can't prove it without
Specifically, this is sets.
It's a specific item of documentation for.
What's the certification of site stability?
Site plan review requirement, criteria and standards.
Right, but what is it?
This
Certification of site stability?
Read it for you.
I said, I'm just wondering what you're referring to.
basically whether it's stable enough to put it up.
Certification to the town that the site is adequate to assure the stability of the proposed wireless telecommunications facilities as designed, and that a geotechnical surface soils investigation, evaluation report, and foundation recommendation for a proposed or existing tower site has been conducted by a licensed engineer.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need This is basically information on the physical site, right? You don't need a proposed or an engineered, tower to do that.
Correct.
I mean, there's no reason it has to be backloaded.
I guess if we. No, it's not gonna serve me well to say this will be the first town that probably required that, because every town has that in their code or sent out. And we've always the towns have always said, hey, we're a planning board, we're not really structural engineers, so we always do it before the BP, basically, but. It's up to you guys.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
So, typically, do you take soil before you conduct your, analysis, do you take soil borings to determine the, load bearing capacity of the soil?
I'm assuming that's part of the geotech, where they bring a rig in.
Right,
And
so if you're gonna do that, you can do that, get that data, and then you'll have that data. And then depending on the size or whatever, you can work from that.
Yeah, no, we do it on every tower. We will
Okay.
not build a tower without doing that. But what I'm saying is just typically it's the timing of it that. So far, we've always done it right prior to the BP application.
So it sounds like this is like a design build type scenario. And what I'm curious about, if you're not doing any borings ahead of time, what if the site is not conducive? What if the borings show that you do not have appropriate? But if we are to approve this project, you would not.
We could build it. But. All the towers we built, never had an issue, never.
Or another way to go is
Because
you
you
can
always-
provide comment utilizing the Ulster County soils maps, which are pretty good.
Sure.
Well, and then maybe if we are to approve, et cetera, we'll have as a condition of approval, that submission. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. And I hear what you're saying.
I've worked on a lot of infrastructure projects and I've never sought all my permits and spent money on permits for something that we didn't know that we couldn't do.
Right.
And I understand where you're coming from.
I've never
But-
had a construction project that has not had soil boring data to support it before it even goes to the architects.
Let's just do it. Let's get it.
It's expensive, and if you guys are gonna deny the application, that's all I'm saying. I mean, you're not just going to
Catch 22.
collect this, and it's never an issue, no matter what the soil shows, you can build a foundation to support a tower.
The code requires it, so.
Well, it says a certification from a licensed engineer, so.
So look at the soils maps, tell us if it's sitting on
Yes.
bedrock, wet,
Especially because there's so many wetlands up there.
Right, if there's muck soils,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I don't think they're in that. Specific location, but if they're muck soils, then you might have to do some
it's not
engineering,
that
piles,
it's a
et
big
cetera.
deal. His
Yeah,
maps are
we'll look
local.
at the maps and we'll provide, I'll get a survey,
You know, if it says it's sitting on wetland or a sandy loam or something, or,
yeah,
mucks and roads versus bedrock, it's
Quicksand.
bedrock, you're home.
not
Oh,
quicksand.
No, but, well,
No, we'll look
I
at that.
think it can be addressed. And then maybe if we are going to approve, that could be a condition of approval that you have submitted.
Let's keep
Submit the
going.
certification.
The next one's a similar certification study from a licensed PE. On the structure itself,
Yeah, and that's what, I think we talked about.
which is elaborated in the code.
I just don't know how to do a structural analysis on a structure that doesn't exist. What we certified, we did provide a letter, a certification from an engineer licensed, saying that this will be designed, pursuant to all the codes, requirements, et cetera, to accommodate co-locators. And we've seen this provision for 20, 30 years, and again, I don't know how you can't do a structural analysis on a structure that doesn't exist, right? Or.
Does anybody disagree with what he just said? Okay, so let's keep going.
Yeah, I just think
Not a structure.
you just have Greg Bollner review what they
Right.
submit and see if it meets the standard, right?
Greg did look at it. As I recall, and indicated how could he do it before it's built? There's specs that say that it's gonna stand up, and then during the construction, it's continually
Yeah.
inspected, so that seems reasonable.
And I think the letter is a certification that says we will be in full compliance. So. That's Greg can determine if it's reasonable or not.
Next,
I don't see the problem, let's keep going.
okay,
First, we're assuming that the thing is gonna be built, that we're gonna approve it, so it's.
Your code requires a list of pending permits and copies of all existing or approved permits. So there is a list in the seeker FEAF of necessary permits. They also need any permits you have.
This board,
This board.
ZBA. Technically, a building permit's not required, but we typically, as a courtesy, will apply for a building permit. And we've given you the FCC licenses, so I'm not aware of anything else.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
A site plan submission has 4 listed items. I believe they've met those
We
already.
have all those.
There's a location map required, that's provided. Elevation drawings for all buildings and the tower. I don't know that we have those.
I don't know that you have the elevations for the buildings. Tower you do. Tower you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it mean buildings as the surrounding buildings or
I'm
buildings?
assuming it's the little little utility building.
Oh, so we don't have, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you meant the,
I'm assuming this means the tower, which we have the
you have that.
The
and there's
building
no
would mean-
shelter.
The buildings would mean if there's any utility buildings, if there's.
Yeah, there are none, but we do have I think an elevation in one of the detailed
There is.
plans. It's the H frame.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's in here on page 45 of 675.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Descriptive summary's been filed. Then there's the 14029I, the special use items specific to telecommunication towers. A report on need for services with an inventory of all existing towers in vicinity. Again, I'm paraphrasing.
Well, that brings up, Jennifer had asked for that some time ago. And it also asked for surface information at different heights.
It was like a sensitivity analysis, because we're being asked, my logic behind that is that we're being asked for a waiver. For the height, and I understand we're gonna look at the tree line, right, to verify that, but let's say for the sake of argument that everything we've received so far is like. The way it's gonna be. If we're being asked to grant this waiver. I think it would be beneficial to understand. And for them to justify why they need the waiver. So the sensitivity analysis is intended. To provide us with appropriate information so that we can see at the different heights. To justify them requesting the height variance.
Are
That
you
makes
looking
sense.
at, in terms of looking at different heights and sensitivity,
Of
are
the
you-
height versus the coverage,
the need?
the need, it's getting at the need, so. If they have 145 and you see a map with whatever it shows, and then you go down to 95 feet and it's 1 pixel smaller. I think that's useful information for us to have, or maybe you go from 145, you go down to 95. And it's the same as it is right now, that's also helpful information for us to have.
Well,
to
more
make
importantly, this board may. It would be a risk of getting out in front. You may be looking at, well, maybe 130 looks like it may, or 125.
I don't wanna presume that. I would just
No,
like
but
to
I'm
see
saying-
sensitivity analysis so we can
But
understand.
didn't our consultant already said that 120 or something sufficient?
The RF engineer in the first.
Right.
That's why it was.
In the first study, he said. You get the same result at 120 that you get at I think
Right.
145 or 150. Below 120 or below 100, forget about it, don't even bother doing it.
So then maybe that's suitable.
So
that-
they did something like, our guy did something like that, but it was based upon his analysis of the information that Verizon or Tectonic provided us with. But yours goes further to say, give me the sensitivity in terms of actual number of customers served.
That's what I'd asked for, but I don't know if our code, I don't know. There
That's
was
what we
stuff
talked
that-
about, last meeting, I was confused at first, and it was talked about at last meeting, you wanted, instead of a geographic. Like what we provided, you wanted customers, and I put that request in, but they don't know how to, they don't keep that data. They're not doing it for that purposes, because. The FCC license requirements are just geographic in nature,
Hmm.
that's why. So they, believe it or not, they don't track, like, we have these customers here that. So, but, you know, we did do a minimum height justification, but that shows differences in geographic areas.
Yeah, this is, the code starts to elaborate on, could you co-locate instead of putting a new tower? Could you put the antenna on an existing structure as opposed to a new tower? It's that kind of evaluation in this section.
Well, I want to just throw this out there. You guys may agree or disagree, because one of the criteria that I suggested for the waiver which comes from variance, an area variance is when the ZBA grants an area variance, and they would do that if, you know, if Verizon goes to them and maybe before us as well, is the minimum variance necessary to accomplish the task, which in this case is providing coverage. This is getting I think this is getting very close to your point, is what is the minimum variance necessary? Let's start with 95, just to throw out there. Is it gonna be a 35-foot variance, which gets them to 130? Or is it gonna be a 25-foot? I mean, we're supposed to, now you guys may decide you don't wanna use that criterion, but I would suggest that that's a fairly natural criterion to throw in, right? From the right from area variances, the seeker is gonna require, you know, minimizing impacts, and, you know, that concept is all through everything, so we may have to get to that level of understanding, you know, where's that sweet spot that we can drive it down as much as possible, but still accomplish what they need.
But didn't our engineer already answer the question? Did our RF consultant already answer the
She
question?
may have. We have to look at that more carefully, but ultimately,
It was the first one that he did back in February.
Zoe, if he did, then it would be our job to look at what he said and understand that it complies with the criteria that we're gonna set up.
Did we receive any response to comments on that from the applicant? On that
I can hear you,
analysis?
Jennifer.
Did we receive a response to that analysis from the applicant?
The engineer.
No, because I think the way my recollection was, I agree with you. He said, you know, if you're looking at 120 and 140, I think those are the antenna satellites. He said, you know, they're kind of similar, but then in the next sentence or so, he said, however, your code requires co-location. And so the 120 is not gonna work for co-location. But, so he said that, so, you know, I don't know if we spoke about it, but, I think our engineer is looking to see if 120 would be okay for him.
Well, the code doesn't require co-location, it suggests co-location.
He was saying
In order to
basically,
avoid additional towers coming.
Right.
he was saying basically that 140, whatever the number, over 120 doesn't gain much, so it was. He didn't see technical necessity to go higher than 120.
That's essentially.
Or technical advantage.
Right. Well, Zorian nailed it. He said 120 was sufficient. And he does make the point about co-location. It's like, yeah, so you got a balance between, well, do we want it first of all, do we want it at all? Okay, if we want it at all, is 120 sufficient? He's saying yes. Just realize somebody could come in, they can't co-locate. They could come in and say, well, I want another tower. Well, we have one over here. Yeah, but you put it at 120. I can't co-locate. I have a right to apply and go through the same process all over again.
But
AT&T,
that time
whatever.
we can say yes or no.
So
Also,
it's
my
that kind of,
recollection Is that this is, I have
Sorry.
to go back and look at my notes, but I'm recalling also that we're asking Verizon to waive the right to increase by 20 feet, and so 120 also plus 20, you sort of end back at 145, 140.
yeah, if we say it's at 120, Verizon says, well, then.
I'm not gonna,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna, you know,
We agreed, I think, we did a lease agreement actually, and it's being signed by Verizon with the owner, and. The agreement is, the owner says no going above 145.
Okay.
So, so that way we were getting around the tax relief act. The Spectrum Act, so.
one of the things. This may be contrary to something I've said before, but that's okay. No, one of the things that I don't want us to do is to skip over the whole issue of, does this meet the community character? And it's been mentioned at every public hearing in one way or another. And when you drill down into section, the section on page 205 and 206 of our code, 14029, it talks about how to evaluate the visual impact in one of these paragraphs. So Yeah, I think the first issue is, do we want it where they're proposing it? Yes or no, because of whatever the impact is on on that community's character or on the impact on the surrounding homes. And once we answer that question, then we can delve into, okay, if we agree that that's a good location in the middle of a residential section, what's the proper height, as opposed to, well, how far down can we get the tower? And sort of shoehorn ourselves into, oh, I guess we just approved that height, or we indicated we wanted that height in that location. I think we have to deal with a residential location and whether or not it's appropriate to have a tower in that residential location. Given the explanation or the terminology used in the code. It's section 140-29 IB3 and B1, 2, and 3.
Also, to further your point, on page 189, there's a whole section which Dave has put, it's item number 45, but it does say shall include a demonstration that the facility will be cited so as to be the least visually intrusive and thereby have a minimal adverse visual effect on the environment and the nature and character of the community, existing vegetation, and on the residences in the area of the wireless telecommunications facility. The applicant shall demonstrate and provide in writing and or by drawings how it shall effectively screen from view the base station, tower base, and all related facilities and structures of the proposed wireless telecommunications facilities. And with that tower being sited right off Granite Road, I don't think that's been met. And I think that also dovetails into the section that you're referring to.
That's item 45 on the list.
Yeah.
2 down from where we were.
And we haven't gotten
And
to.
that's the issue Matt Allen said, defer to the board.
Right, and then what page was that section that you were talking about?
He's citing page numbers from the color-coded edited version of the code, which we've been still using to highlight the code changes.
Oh.
So your page numbers are.
Okay.
So it's 140-29 IB. And there's a series of.
Well, it's HB III.
Okay, so we're talking, okay, that's what.
And the other thing, and I know you're getting to it, and it did come up tonight and it's come up before, and we've asked about it, is the real estate. We've asked for local real estate, but our code, when we get to the town code, it goes even further. It talks about economic impact analysis.
Right.
That's a little bit more than a real estate analysis.
You threw me with the page number.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Keep going, Dave.
Okay, 44, the zone of visibility maps is described in the code, been filed. I call it under review at this point. Any comments, questions about it? Okay. We just talked about 45. To summarize, the Matt Allen led the analysis meeting the New York State DEC guidance for seeker purposes, but your code has this more fine-grained impact analysis needed for the what I'll call neighborhood character, which includes demonstrate and provide in writing or by drawing how the base will be effectively screened from the neighborhood. Okay, 46 is a justification of the total height requested. Has to be documented, just request and justifications.
By justification, you mean it's a statement from the applicant?
Statement from the applicant.
It's in their original submission.
It's in the RF, you know.
Yeah. Code says we need a grading and a vegetation clearing plan.
Yep.
Code says we need a stormwater plan.
Right.
small s, stormwater. It's not presumed that there's a state SWIP required. It's just,
There's not.
uh, just basically the licensed engineer needs to talk about, document somehow and what stormwater and erosion might occur and what measures are being taken to take care of that in the very modest disturbance zone. The next one's what Rick was talking about, for everybody, that last page. Code says, I'll read it, an economic analysis study of the property value impacts of the construction and operation of the telecommunications facility may have on all contiguous and adjacent properties located within 500 feet of the parcel boundaries on which the facility is located. So I know you're back, team's back working on an analysis that's more local than the other one came out of the Capital District, I think, or something.
Well, no, the other one included 5 different towns. Trying to think of what they were now. Athens. But anyway, 5 towns. And then he also had a bunch of other ones. We kind of have just put him on hold also. We submitted his request or his proposal. But we wanted to see how this meeting turns out. I mean, because we do have the shot clock issue, so. We talked about that, so.
So this is pretty specific. It says within 500 feet of parcel boundaries.
I mean, having done some of this economic analysis before, you're gonna have to rely on, the only way to effectively do it is to rely on some comparable setting. Be that New Paltz or what else has been built
I
around
think
here?
New Paltz was in one of our.
Your Bullville one is in progress, right? The town of Crawford.
Bullville is Crawford. But-
Yeah, I know. My kids go to Pine Bush schools.
Okay, so I'm in Crawford Wednesday again for another site.
Yeah, but that one you can't, do you have any analysis from there?
No, because we typically don't, we typically don't do analyses unless we're asked to do it, but.
Socrates.
Saugerties is a new tower up on the fire department. I don't think, I gotta have to check, Saugerties sounds like we might have. I know you mentioned that before.
Did you construct a new town?
Gardner, were you Gardner?
The
Gardner
new
was,
ones?
Yeah,
I don't know, we constructed, I think it was Homeland Towers that constructed.
that's right. Cause there was a
Where-
new
where-
tower.
where
the-
that just recently permitted within
All
a
right,
year
so
or two.
the point is we're gonna need
you
something.
at the airport outside of Kingston, is that Verizon?
No, that's what I'm familiar with, but
So the point is you're gonna have to do something much more local.
if it can be done. It might not be able to be done, that's the problem.
Well,
But
we need an answer one way or the other.
We're gonna have to, you're gonna have to have some documentation on to answer this that item.
you know if this stuff, well,
I don't know.
you know if stuff was
I
done for
read
the
it
other
as-
towers that were approved?
I would have to,
That code may, I don't know if this code was in place when those towers were constructed.
Yeah.
This is new code.
Yeah, I think it was, well, let's try, yours do. Oh, all right. We just wanna make sure we're being treated like everybody else, that's all.
it's. I mean, I guess, Rick, I could reach out to county planning and see if there's something they've seen that.
Well, you could do that, but I see another letter coming. What did you-
Yeah, I confess, this one's not an easy thing to do
No, it's not.
methodologically. I don't know how you do this. As a professional, I just don't.
Well, I agree, it's
The way
so,
it's described, I'm not sure how you would do it.
Okay, so when we're doing it, as you're doing what you can do, you can do a lot of hand wringing, but we need more than what we have.
Yeah, because it's something that's come up in the public comment
Yeah.
repeatedly.
It's something more local.
yeah, but
Much
I
more.
understand with the public comment, they haven't submitted any evidence. They can say all they want that public property values are gonna decrease,
I know, but it's the application of the applicant.
you know, no, I understand, and we have provided some information, but if we have to provide some additional. But understand, there's no evidence to suggest that this will decrease the property value.
All the more reason that you need to lay the fears of what people are,
I'm not concerned about fears with no evidence, I'm sorry, I'm not.
that's what I'm saying, is that you need to provide that evidence to.
If there's no impact to property values, it should be pretty straightforward to demonstrate that to the board.
Well, even your consultant's saying it's not, though, it's almost that for a professional to do
I'm
that.
using your words, you said it's very easy and clear that there was no impact, so.
No,
If you're certain there's no impact.
what I just said now? No, I said the public didn't submit anything to demonstrate there's an impact, so there's no evidence from them.
Do you believe there's an impact on property
The
values?
code says,
No,
hang on,
So
but I'm not,
demonstrate.
but I'm not an appraiser.
the code says you need to give us.
Seriously, no, we'll try to do something.
We were under the impression you were updating this anyway.
Well, we are, but like I said, we want to see how this meeting turned out because, you know. Well,
Okay,
We're-
I think we're just
we're running
pointing
out of
out
time.
there's a specific code
Yep, I hear
standard
you.
for what it's supposed to be.
I hear you.
So if you're updating it, the board needs to make sure it meets that standard.
Yep.
The balloon test is described, that's checked, that's happened. There's a code section, co-location, including evidence to offer to emergency services. The code expects that there needs to be some documentation to the town that the providers made an offer to the community, to the emergency services agencies.
So,
that
although
they
I
can
don't,
co-locate.
although we don't think that's lawful, we have a policy that we provide free space on the tower, rent free to all local emergency services.
Okay,
That's an
Uh,
open
and-
offer.
can you put that in writing?
Yep, if we haven't already.
Then there's a performance security if you get that far. And I just note for the bottom three, we're still waiting for the county planning board review memo. They having met last Wednesday. You have to still do the secret determination, which is gonna be hefty. And you'll have to still close the public hearing.
Right. We'll close the public hearing and then do secret.
Dave, this is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
really.
So these are just,
This
Thank
this
you
is
for
just a
the-
worksheet for you all. I know.
Yeah, but it's
To
really
keep track of what you.
No, it's structure for going for it.
So
Thank you.
is the board,
items.
is the board at the point, so this was meant to be illustrative as well as educational, but more importantly, as each are making your own decision to bring back to this board as you're thinking through it. I think this helps a lot. And it also would help to reread one section 140-29. You can skip the definitions except for the definition about radio bins or something.
Plot.
Plots. So I'd like to move us to making some decisions or getting a sense of the board, where the board is at. I'll call it at 100,000 feet, meaning does this fit the community character as a starting point? And not spend a lot of time initially talking about 120 versus 145. I think in order to do that, we need to spend a whole night just diving into it. And so I'm going to propose that we do meet in November. We had canceled the meeting of November 25th. And I don't know if any of you made plans as a result, November 24th. November 24th. So I'd like to put that back on the agenda. I'd like some feedback that now wait till December 8th, we'll do it then. I just think in terms of timing, we're definitely not going to meet at the end of the year. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to the community to really start getting at this. It assumes that we have, and I'm assuming we would have our Ulster County's planning board's input. I would hope, Dave, that we have your input on I keep calling it preemption, the issue of preemption.
On the
Environment versus you,
the non-human impacts as opposed
Right,
to the.
right, we would
Yeah.
need that.
Okay,
So what does the board think about spending the 24th just on Verizon?
I'm not 100% positive I can make it through World War II at this point, but I certainly do that if I can, but I think that I'm hoping that I can, but I think without the Ulster County Planning Board feedback, we're not gonna have any, there's no point in doing it.
That's true.
I think that's an important essential thing. There's a whole bunch of information I want to, we still need to get. And ideally we would have a better idea of some of the critical issues that are coming that, the economic analysis in some form. The planning board, as I mentioned, but then also there's just a lot of stuff that really became apparent through this worksheet that just we need to have that.
We don't have yet, yeah. Okay,
That's my perspective.
believe me, I'm not looking for another meeting,
Not either.
that particular time of the year.
I
Anybody
think if
else?
we get-
Wait till
as, you know,
December
as-
8th?
As per Pete's comments. As long as we have the review from Ulster County, the Ulster County Planning Board, then I think it would be a good time to meet and hash things out and go through and have a workshop. But
Dave, can you press them? We were kidding before
I
that,
can call tomorrow.
and find out when we're gonna get it.
Sure.
Okay, so why don't we won't announce anything yet to the public in terms of notice or anything, but let's see if we can get a date when we're gonna get this. So the feeling is if we have the Ulster County Planning Board material, we will meet.
I think so. I think it's also, did you have a sense, you mentioned something about the Monopine simulation?
that too.
Yeah.
I'll check with Matt Allen.
Okay.
He said it was simple. I took that to mean a week's worth of, a couple of days. And the other piece that we're missing, but that was gonna get here by the 17th, is the response from Doug Fishman to Chamberlain's letter. And also your technical response to that Chamberlain letter. And emphasis on technical.
Oh, yeah. No,
I don't know if I can I could probably come maybe
Is
late.
that the Monday before Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
It is. I don't know if I could be here at 6:30, but I can probably come.
Okay, it sounded like we may have a couple of people missing.
Could we plan potentially like for a second meeting in December? I mean, it's
That's gonna be.
That's just bad. That's bad. All right, let's leave it the way it is then, December 8th. Let's just leave it. The lack of assurance that we're gonna have Ulster County's information at the time to digest it. The need for a technical brief from Scott's person. And just Peter's right, there's a lot of little nits and gnats which came out with this exercise that we went through. So let's leave it for December 8th. And I will try to keep that agenda very small. We have people breaking down the doors though, wanting to be on the agenda. Oh, okay. Anything else? I admire your fortitude. Everybody's fortitude here. Scott, you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. Could you refresh my memory on the amount of work you guys did looking at different locations?
We have a site selection analysis in the application. Basically, it involves so the engineer, the RF engineer, creates what they call a search area. Generally, it's a circle type of area. Doesn't have to be a circle. But it's the area in which basically the tower needs to be located to provide the service that's expected and the capacity issues. So the site act people then go out and look at the properties, visit owners who may be interested. They talk to any interested owners about leasing property. And in this case, I don't know offhand how many there were. I think there were only a handful based just upon the search area. But that's what they end up doing.
And how did you wind up getting this owner to be so agreeable to doing it? I
didn't talk to the owner specifically. All I do is draft the leases. My guess is it's a company that invests in property and they looked at it as an opportunity to make, a little extra money. Which despite what you may hear is not a bad thing. It's the American way.
Okay.
Sorry. Get a little punchy when I get tired.
Right, any other comments from the board?
I have a question. So can you provide support why there is a need for your signal? Because
We have,
people.
We have.
This discussion already going for several months.
right,
And we hear literally 3-4 people that they're saying they need signal.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. So anecdotal evidence under New York law is completely irrelevant. So I know you hear some comments from the public saying, well, no one's showing up to support this. Well, no one ever shows up to support it. They just, people don't do that. And I was a little surprised that Chamberlain made that comment also, like, well, this is important. Well, it's like under New York law, no, it's not important if everyone in the town says we need it or don't need it. What's important is the technical reason, because we have a license under the FCC and we have to basically build out the system. So whether people say they need it or don't need it, I know they're not gonna wanna hear it, completely irrelevant for the law.
But having a license is not a technical reason. Technical reason is absence of the signal.
We have that. We absolutely show that in our RF analyses. And your consultant, like you said, reviewed it and confirmed it. Said that we have done a very good job showing the need. I'm not making that up. That's your consultant.
Where are we gonna get some clear explanation that latest letter from that person who used to teach in university?
There was two, weren't there?
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain?
Yeah. Because he basically, in my mind, I reading him, it's basically discredits completely what
Yeah, you're right. Chamberlain's letter discredits completely the needs analysis done by
Right.
Verizon.
So are we looking for another opinion to contradict it?
Well, what I'm looking for is from a variety of resources, as we chatted tonight, is clarification of what, of the technology of doing a needs analysis, right? He said X. All right, you'll probably say why. Well, what is the why and what are the details, the technical details of how you actually did the analysis and what's required by law and what's not allowed by law? Okay, because you were telling us there are some things, drop calls, for example, are not required by law to do.
Correct.
So, and we're also asking our analysts, Fishman and Greg, to come back and interpret all this stuff. 25-30% of what guy was talking about, what Mr. Chamberlain was talking about, better known as the guy was talking about, is foreign to me. With the exception of this business with the broadband, the FCC broadband map. Okay, that was pretty understandable. It's also understandable that it was 3 different broadband providers. So it's like, okay, so between the 3 of them, there's coverage. That's why I asked the question, well, why would you want to have coverage where there's already coverage? If AT&T is providing coverage or T-Mobile, what makes you think that you're going to be able to grab those customers?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question at the time.
Well, you did, but I didn't pursue it.
So, no, because, well, first of all, you want to have competition. And we have customers in that area. We're not trying to grab customers. We're trying to actually service our customers. So I misunderstood your question. I thought you were saying.
Okay, I understand that,
Yeah.
but if a customer doesn't have good service, one of the great things about our economy is competition.
Right.
All right, and one could argue that it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller with bigger and bigger companies, but competition keeps the price low.
Right.
And it gives people options. So why would somebody who has crummy service from you guys not go to AT&T or T-Mobile?
Well, you just made the point. I mean, if the answer to that question is if that was the structure, then T-Mobile could charge whatever they wanted. And if the law expects that we're gonna encourage competition, then the fact that T-Mobile has service there, if these guys want it, then.
Yes, yes.
Right, that's whether we like, it, we may not agree with that, that may not be what you'd wanna do.
Yeah, you're right.
That's kind of the structure we
We-
get.
And we don't look at our competitors in terms of what we need. That's completely irrelevant. We don't think twice about it. We just look at what does our network need? And then they have budgeting processes because they can only spend so much money a year. But they don't care if T-Mobile's there or not.
So is there to answer your question, that whole paper by Chamberlain needs to be
Right.
further
Right.
elucidated.
Can I ask, when we have Greg and et cetera, and we have a kind of an ongoing relationship with them where I can bring them in and ask them questions. Doug Fishman, there's a lot going on here, right? The whole Chamberlain letter, some of the things that Scott said tonight, we may, what Jen was talking about with the sensitivity analysis. We may want to ask him like questions in real time and say, look at this, look at that, what's this all about? Can we have a more active relationship with them? I think that would cut through a lot of this, because otherwise we're relying on Verizon. I mean, say Scott can send us stuff, which would be great, but we gotta have our guy.
We should have our guy.
You should have your guy look at it, whatever we submit.
No, I think what David's saying is what's been troubling me too, that we should have him here,
Yeah.
that we can pepper him with questions like we did Matt Allen.
Or just virtually, even just, we know we can pick up the phone on a daily basis and say, we got this, we got.
And if he's not available, then we need to get somebody else.
Or that may be just for whatever reason, we need to have somebody who's good at this, who's got credentials, who can break this down in real time and follow up questions, and if it's not Fishman, then we may need to get somebody else. Right. I think even at this stage, because, there's a lot.
Right, but there's a lot in that letter from Chamberlain.
Yeah, and also, I'm also very sensitive to Jen's point, we may have to come down on, we may ultimately make a decision, there's gonna be a number involved in it, and it's gotta be we need it to be the right thing for the community and for us, and we have to also justify it, right? 120, when we have one comment from Doug Fishman, we may have to ask some follow-up questions on it just to justify it, like, where did we get it from, what's the sensitivity, right?
Yeah, there was something in Chambers that I wanted to ask you about, which was about the use of wireless communications for internet streaming services as a motivation for building towers.
Not that I'm aware of, but I saw that also.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was interesting if it's, because he sort of follows with his line of thinking about whether it's a necessary coverage or not. And that was, I was wondering myself, if it's not necessarily coverage, why are you putting money into it?
Well,
because you said earlier this evening that you don't put money, Verizon doesn't put money into infrastructure you don't need.
Right.
And
Right. So to answer your question though, again, it's a difference of opinion. We completely disagree with Mr. Chamberlain. We wouldn't be here if we didn't need it. And the need is very simple. Does this area that we're trying to cover have adequate coverage? And our engineer is saying absolutely not. So we wouldn't, we don't build sites for $500,000. Obviously, this site's gonna cost a lot more. It's taking a lot more. But we don't do that. So it's just a matter of, here are our license frequencies. Do they provide the coverage in the area that we need? And in this case also, it's a capacity issue. It's because you have a lack of coverage in this general area. There is some bleed of the signal, and they suck the signal away a little bit, but a site can only basically serve so many people, because there's only X number of channels that are available. So we need capacities. There's too many people using the system in this area.
right, I guess what I'm wondering about is the fact that this whole thing has been kind of framed in the perspective of, do we need wireless coverage here for cell phone use? And this is asking a different question, which is for home internet market. And that's a different thing in my mind, to me. Maybe it isn't.
I hear what you're saying. And our attitude is, again, we gave some statistics at the public hearing about how many minutes of calls. I mean, a year, trillions. So the point is that, yes, people use their phones for a whole bunch of different reasons, but they still do use it to talk. Unless you're, a millennial.
But Peter, is it, I mean, isn't that all, it's built in, I mean, people, rightly, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, internet use, download, streaming has morphed over the years from this to a phone, right? And that's just what people.
I
watch
don't
movies
see the
on the
evolution
phone.
of it. It's
The other argument is messaging, right? So messaging is
Yeah.
very critical today.
It's just there, is that what's driving some of this, is that people are just using cell service for watching movies and stuff?
I'm not privy to any like that specific information. I'm, so I'm not sure. I think it's more of just in the area, you just don't have a site close enough. In the old days, analog service, you'd put a site on a mountain. It would be 300 feet tall and it would go 20 miles each way. But the FCC in 2007 went digital, and digital is like, or is it 0.2 of a watt compared to 3 watts? Analog at 3 watts goes really far. 0.2, when you pull out your phone, it's tiny. So that phone actually has to be able to reach back to the tower. So that's why part of the reason is if you don't have a site close enough, and generally right now, sites are being built every 2 miles, more or less, give or take, depending on the area. That's what it is. We have a site, there are Cohasset sites, 2.4 miles away. You can't serve this area.
I have a quick question. Remind me, please, you probably already said it before. Would Minnewaska Lake have a signal with this or not? I think you said no.
I remember the old Minnewaska Trail, that's all I was on the description today when I was going over, but I don't know. I'd have to look on a map to see if the coverage plots extend that far. So, I can certainly look to see that.
The reason I'm asking about it, because I know there is a summer swimming club there.
Okay.
On another end of the lake, and there is no signals there.
No, there is not.
How far away is it? From where?
From like our site generally.
Well, it's 3 miles to Stony Kill Falls. You're talking about the distance swimming at Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it would be the distance to the visitor center plus
Half a mile.
about half a mile.
And it's going up over a mountain.
It's in a hole.
It's in a hole.
Is it? Yeah, that's gotta be a tough one, but I don't
It's in a
know.
hole.
Okay. Hey, we can look and everything.
Because I
Minnewaska
know
Lake.
it's a lot of people member of the club.
Okay.
I swim there.
Get down to testify.
Okay. All right, so we're not gonna be meeting at the end of November. The next meeting will be December 8th. Public hearing will still be, we'll open the public hearing. Might possibly close the public hearing on the 8th. And I think we need to plan, we'll talk more. We need to plan to begin to work on the seeker determination.
Yeah, the other thing we need to do is do the comprehensive plan thing.
Right.
Or
I'll itemize those plans for you and you choose your favorite.
Okay. Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn.
I was looking at you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
That's second.
Hans, all in favor?
Right.
Once you.
Are you opposed? Scott,